right, a very good morning, everybody, from the flight deck. Hello, once again, it's Captain Nabs with you here for another flight in our Pilot's Life series. As you can see, we're sitting here with our trusty Boeing 737, getting all ready to go here. Just getting ready to load her up and get going here. And today is the premiere episode of Season 10 of A Pilot's Life here on Twitch. I have done this for 9 seasons so far. This is season number 10. It's going to be a new schedule, and today's schedule, we're starting off, for those of you that didn't read the tagline there in the title, we're starting off today with Vegas, baby. We are in Portland right now. I put the incorrect information on the original posting, but I corrected it at some point. We are leaving from Portland, not Seattle. So we are in Portland. We're going down to Las Vegas, baby. It's not a long flight, but it's a great flight. It's lots of good scenery, and we got stuff to talk about. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. As you can see, we are now onto a new schedule. So I generated a new schedule. It took me quite a little while to find a schedule that I liked, that I felt wasn't repetitive. This is probably one of the biggest problems with working in the airline business, especially, and A Pilot's Life kind of reflects this, is that the airline business is very, very repetitive. You go to the same place over and over again, and I tried to kind of find some schedules that were kind of saw some new places. Unfortunately, I just keep getting stuck with Seattle and Portland because they are two major hubs for Alaska Airlines. I mean, that doesn't that makes sense on a lot of levels. It absolutely does. That little plane that flew by in the background looked kind of funny there. Yeah, it actually makes sense on a lot of levels, but it's very, it just gets very repetitive. I would have liked to have seen some other places. I tried to do a hub out of San Diego, but the trouble with the hub out of San Diego is they only seem to do really long-haul flights out of San Diego for the most part. I tried to do it, and it was like I either ended up having to go to Hawaii or the East Coast. Was 90% of the flying. Like, there was no real short-haul flying, so I really like San Diego. I wanted to try it out, but I kind of got away from that. And ditto with Anchorage, which is another big Alaska base, is that you end up with a lot of long flights because you end up going back and forth to the mainland, the continental U.S. a lot, which is like a 2-hour, 3-hour flight just to get to Seattle. And then if you go to Chicago or New York from Anchorage, that's epic. So in my effort to try and keep the stage lengths reasonable here, I ended up again with a lot of Seattle and a lot of Portland in the whole mix, which is again, I don't mind those two airports, but I just was trying to get it, trying to avoid the repetition. But anyways, we've got different destinations of it this time. So from Portland, as you can see, we're going to go to Vegas, we're going to go back to Portland, go down to Dallas Fort Worth, go back to Portland, go over to Chicago O'Hare, back over to Seattle. Then we're going to visit 2 new places that I think I've been to Jackson Hole once in the sim, Jackson Hole once, and I don't think I've ever been to Anchorage in the sim. Maybe I have a long time ago in the P3D era, but I have not been to Anchorage in a while. So we're going to head out to Anchorage to finish off the season. As you can see, 1,200 miles. It's not a hugely long trip, but it's going to be a couple hours anyways. It's going to be fun though. Some great scenery up in Alaska, so I'm looking forward to that. So I kind of wanted to see a few more Alaska legs. Maybe in the next season we'll see some. It took me a long time to generate this schedule. In all honesty, it took me way longer than I would have expected it to. I just kept on clicking generate, and it kept on just not quite coming up with something that I liked. So yeah, it took me hours of kind of looking and sort of just stepping away, just like, I need a break from this to finally kind of get something I liked anyways. So anyways, that's what we're up against today. We are doing Portland down to Las Vegas, and I realized, of course, I'm not on screen, so here we go. And there I am, and of course the sun came out just in the last couple seconds and really kind of increased the brightness level. Let me just see if I can adjust that a little bit. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm just going to try and put a little bit more shade there. All right, let's just see if that made any better. Added some shade. That's a lot more reasonable. Go figure, the sun hasn't been out for 5, 6, 7 days, and now all of a sudden here is the sunshine. Even now, it still looks a little bit on the bright side, but let's see if I can't maybe just adjust that just a little bit downwards here. Days and days, the sun has not been out. All of a sudden, go figure. I had the light perfectly tuned to do this stream. Is that any better there? That's a little better. Still quite pale, but what can you do? Just might see if I can slide one more thing around here a little bit. Make it a little bit shadier. No, it doesn't really work too much. just added to the list of things that's just not going my way today. It hasn't been a great morning, but we're going to try and get some flying in and try and have some fun. So, yeah, and I see a lot of you guys watching already. If we can get a couple more people up here once we get going here, I will trigger some failures and we'll deal with them en route. I don't even know really what airports are en route. Flight looks okay. Curious how I can offer promotions to my stream through Dog Hype. I don't even know what Dog Hype is. Yeah. Let me get going, and then we can have a look into it. All right, so let's hop in the flight deck and let's get this party started. And I did have to restart the Sim 1s as well, which of course was part of the reason why the stream started later than I wanted it to. I had to relaunch the sim. It was being a bit of a bear on me. So I thought I had everything loaded, and I realized that I did not reload P3D. Oh, is that the guy? Is that the doghype.com? Oh, I see. I see what you're referencing there. Aha. I get it now. I'm a little slow sometimes. You gotta bear with me. Explain things to me, or I just don't get them sometimes. All right, so we've got our FS2Crew ready to go here. Let's just make sure. I don't know who we're going to fly with today. Who do you want to fly with today? Anybody got a suggestion? Leon, Jan, Jacob. We could do Mohammed. Should we work with Mohammed today? Let's start setting up. Let's start setting up. Let's start setting up.
Roger.
There, that's better. I don't know what. Okay, I think the volume's okay. Let me know if the volume is not okay, and we'll mess with it. But otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing powered on here. Got batteries. We got ground power, and we'll make sure we get our IRSs online here. All right, it's a little bit dim with the sun coming up on the west coast, but it's not too bad today. All these things, make sure they all look good. Yeah, everything looks good. And we should probably start fueling our airplane.
Refueling truck is on its way.
I am being a little bit slow in the process here, but let's start refueling.
Until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
And let's get this show on the road here. So we've got 737-800 today with AirAct 2304, which is valid until the 18th of May of this year. That's good. 26,000-pound engines. And position initialization, and with the power just coming on, we're not even ready yet for the GPS, but we will be ready in a few minutes. We'll get this sucker going here. Hopefully everything works pretty well today. For those of you that are just noticing there, if you look at the top of the screen, you'll notice today we have a new overlay. So in conjunction with Season 10, I've tweaked a few things. I've put a new, all right, show me sim brief panel. I've put a new overlay up there. I'm using a new piece of software. Actually, I used to use Sim Toolkit Pro. I liked it, but it was pretty resource intensive. Most of the time, it was using about 5% of your resources, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually it's not an inconsequential amount. So we need 19.6, so we'll call it 19.8.
Please use your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
I was using about 5% of my processor power at any time. So I've downloaded a new piece of streaming software to do a new overlay, and I decided to change up the overlay anyways. And maybe it's time for a little bit of a change, but hopefully it helps the speed and the frame rate and everything. It run a little hopefully faster. It definitely uses a lot less overhead than Sim Toolkit Pro, anyways. So. Anyways, so let's set our IRS positions and let's go ahead and initialize our flight here. So again, today we are doing Portland KPDX down to Las Vegas. Check out that Fly Tampa scenery down in Las Vegas. Hopefully my performance does not slow down too much for that part. What am I doing here? What are we? We are a SA. 670 is our flight number today, Alaska 670. And we are departing Portland. And let's see here. My output volume, like, I'll be honest, I don't think I can increase it much more. I can increase the background volume, but like I'm looking at the levels on my my mic, and I'm going consistently into the yellow, almost into the red. I could maybe tweak it up just a hair, but I don't want to tweak it up too far, because I have found that in the past where I talk a little bit louder and then I suddenly become very overmodulated. So I can turn up the background noise if that's what you're having a hard time hearing. But I don't think I can turn up my personal microphone too much more than it is right now. But we'll try that. Let me know if that's too loud. I just don't want to be overshadowed too much by the background noise. All right. Where was I here? Oh yeah, trying to figure out what runway we're going to use today. So, Portland weather here on VATSIM. The winds are 100 at 6, so I think we're going to use 10 left for departure. And where's my flight plan? I don't know what it is about my voice, because I cannot. I am looking at my streaming software, and if I talk any louder, if I turn the volume up anymore, it's not even the microphone or anything though. It's the limit of the streaming software. If I talk much louder, it's going to be start clipping. It is right almost at the red. So I don't know what is. I don't know what I can do to make it even louder. I may have to do some research on it. But yeah, it's more a question of I'm watching the levels here, and it's just touching the red half the time, which to me that means like we're getting into clipping territory. Like we're going to start clipping our audio here. So you don't want to be in the red the whole time you're streaming, or you're going to end up with something that's very overdone. I don't know why, but I don't know if there's a way to increase the volume that Twitch puts out there. But I did turn it up quite a bit on one stream, and I found I did notice in the replay that it was clipping though. So I'm scared to turn it up too much, because I don't want to do that. It sounds terrible when it starts clipping. So I'll turn myself up a little bit more. See if that's any better, but I don't think I want to talk any louder than that. All right. Anyways, so yeah, so we did 10 left. What was I going to do? Bring up the flight plan. That would probably be the most helpful part of actually setting this whole thing up here. Because we are a little bit behind where I wanted to be here. Departure today. What is this flight plan? Routing, yeah, Cascade 2. There it is, Cascade 2. Cascade 2 as far as Chisholm. Yeah, okay. I turned it up a little bit. I just, like I said, I'm a little concerned about how much I can turn it up. All right, and I don't see Chisholm on here, so let's just pull up the charts here. It's probably like a common point pretty early in the SID here. All right, show me the Cascade 2. Yeah, Chisholm is the common point, so I don't even need to probably do any of that. If I do go to route right now, it should end at Chisholm. Yeah, perfect. Okay, perfect. So we'll just close you for a second here. And after Chisholm, we're going to Huts.
Hi, security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Go for it.
Thanks.
Boarding requested.
All right, Huts, Polly. Q13. Sometimes I do like this better than the Airbus, where you have to go into a menu just to put in an airway. Just keep on typing. I should be able to just keep on typing. I do like certain things about the way Tequila. I do like certain things about the way Boeing's FMS is put together. And that's it. Cocktail 2. And it's estimating 26 left for arrival. That sounds reasonable. Sure, board them all.
Pilot's boarding starting.
Cocktail 2, both 26s. Tequila transition, and we'll plan a ILS runway 26 left. I don't even know where to start it from, but we'll figure that out once we get underway. Alright, so we'll activate, execute all that, and into our perf init page, set off W. So we're planned at 130.8. And the fuel, 19.9 is correct. Reserves and cost index. So reserves, 6.8, cost index to 72. 6.8.
Crew boarding starting.
72. And, let's see here, flight level 350. No step climbs in there, just 350 all the way. Cruise wind 149 and 37. Execute that. The average ISA of +7. Average. So does that have the average temperature in there? No, it just has the average ISA. Okay, that's fine. All right. Pardon me. My voice is already killing me today. Hayden, UK, good morning. Welcome. And we're just getting underway here, getting this thing programmed up here. Let me just get some performance numbers here. So I should have, there's my 737 calculator. So we're showing a takeoff weight. Let's go back to the Perfinet page here. We're estimating a takeoff weight of 150,700. Let me remember to put this into imperial.
Your crew has boarded. Passengers boarding starting.
And, all right, so we are in Portland. Crying out loud, sometimes I hate touchscreen phones. Keyboards are such smarter input devices. Never understood this obsession with everything has to have a touchscreen, and I had planned on ranting on that later on. Let's see here. Okay, so 12 degrees, 2974. And the wind is 106, so it's not very strong today. We plan a flap 5 departure. Air conditioning on, anti-ice off. Let's see if we can do a takeoff 2 departure at 150,700. Weight seems to be too high. Let's try takeoff 1. All right, takeoff 1 numbers we can get. So, according to this, we can do takeoff 1. All right, so we can do, it's a D rate of 13 degrees, and it's 12 degrees right now. At takeoff 1, so we can just barely do this here. For a flap 5 departure, CG will just autofill there. And it's giving me 41, 44, 49, which is pretty darn close here. So we'll go with what's in here. Pardon me. And there we go. The FMS setup is complete. Now we can go back into doing the whole flow here and get this all done here. So let's just have a quick look around the flight deck.
And no issues on the walk around.
Thank you. And he's just going to start doing everything just as I start to do everything as well. I'm going to get that fuel pump on because we're going to start the APU in just a second here. And I believe the fueling is done. Yeah, fuel truck is gone, which means fueling is done. So we can go ahead and get the seatbelt sign on. And we can also start the APU while we're down here. Alright, yeah, I know it's cool in the back. We're getting the APU on right now, and that'll get you some warmth in a second here. 35,000 for cruise. I don't know what the altitude is in Las Vegas, but we'll figure that out once we get going here, or the FO will sub it in for me as he usually does. 2974, I believe we said, so let's put that in there. FO's setting that for me. Alright, flight directors. 150 is our V2 speed. And again, charts. What is the runway heading? Just to have it as a backup. Alright, 103. I'm going the wrong way. 103 for the Cascade 2 is their top altitude published. There is not. ATC would probably give you one, so I'm going to leave it at 6,000, which kind of gives us a good.
Here's the fuel slip.
Around here.
Thanks.
Welcome. Have a nice flight.
Alright, 6,000 feet is set, and we should have LNAV and VNAV available for departure. Perfect. Just the last couple of tests here. Make sure everything is on, no bulbs burned out. There's a lot of lights on a flight deck. It's crazy sometimes. And a lot of switches. You don't even realize because you don't even move half the switches in normal circumstances. You don't start to add up how many switches there are, but I was listening to a podcast, and apparently in the A320 flight deck, there's over 400 switches, which you only use like probably a couple dozen on a normal flight, but there's all these other ones, maintenance switches and things like that you don't normally touch unless something's gone wrong. And even on the overhead panel, most of the switches you don't normally touch them unless something's gone wrong and you have to shut down the system. Also, you use, I feel, like the APU and stuff on a regular basis, but a lot of the system switches, you just leave them. They're always just there. So you don't think about them. You're not conscious of how many switches there are in the flight deck. I just set 2000 for generic code. Hopefully we'll get some ATC maybe by the time we get to Vegas. Los Angeles Center's off and online. All right, and we can do a trim test. It's hard to do when you can't see the trim up here, so just say that we've done it. Let me just throw my flight number in here so we're ready to go. Alaska 670 we are today. Pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
Tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Navigation transfer and display switches. Auto normal. Window heat on. Pressurization mode selector. Auto. Flight instrument.
Heading 354. Altimeter 2974.
Heading 354. Altimeter 2975. Park and brake.
Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off.
Pre-flight checklist completed.
All right, there we go. And
Check
are
it.
you ready for the departure briefing?
Go ahead.
Okay, pardon me. So, we are parked at AK Charlie 9 here in Portland. We're going to taxi for departure runway 10 left, so we're going to push tail to the right. And we're going to go, I guess, Tango, Echo, and Kilo 1 to get to 10 left for departure. No hot spots on the, actually no, that's not true. There's a hot spot here at the threshold of runway 0321, so we'll just have to make sure we look both ways before we cross the threshold of that runway. The Cascade 2 departure, this is on plate 10-3, effective the 28th of July of 2017. DDI or GPS required, RNF1 radar required for non-GPS turbojets only, and non-GPS, that's not us. So, pardon me, runway 10 left, climb heading 103 to 540 feet, then direct river, then on depicted route to Chisholm. So heading 103 till we get to 540, and then direct river and on to Chisholm. So 540, river, Kosug, Hattis, Chisholm. And that's it. That's the end of our SID. After that, we're on our flight plan route. The highest terrain around here, there is some pretty high terrain, more or less straight ahead after departure, so we do have to make sure we follow the SID. The MSA will be briefly in the 6200. Realistically, will probably be in the 3500 sector for longer. That's around the battleground VOR. Weather, looks like a nice day out there. See here, scattered at 2500, broken at 2900, yeah, and 12 degrees is a pretty nice day out there. We'll probably need some anti-ice shortly after we get going, but we shouldn't need it for the departure process. Operational, no MELs on the aircraft. I was thinking about an MEL, and you know what, if you guys by the end of the stream want to suggest an MEL to throw on for next time, just to sort of make life a little more difficult, please do. I'm always, you know, things break in airplanes, and sometimes we just have to deal with them, sometimes for multiple legs before maintenance has a chance to look at them. So, you know, I've done APU MELs before. But if you guys have any other interesting suggestions, generator APU, generator, bleed MELs are quite common. Bleed temperature, bleed overpressure, shutting down the bleed on one engine for a couple of days is quite common. So if you want to see anything like that, just let me know. I'm just going to have a quick look here at the, oh, that's the destination. I want to see the departure, airport, Portland, anything interesting here. Golf, between 0321 Southwest ramp closed. 10 left, 28 right, close, 16 to 1700. We better get going here. We got 2 hours till that happens. That's fine. 21 is closed. SID, Cascade 2 departure, takeoff obstacles for 28 right, and that's basically it. So nothing, no SID, no times affecting our departure process. Any questions?
No questions.
Alright, I'm just going to fast forward the boarding process here. I think. Yeah, GSX is done. So I'm just going to fast forward my FS2Crew here. And we can go ahead and remove the ground power.
Hey guys, all packs are on board. Are we clear to close?
Thanks, it will be a short taxi.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
Alright. And I think we're just about ready to go. We just need the final numbers here. He's playing with his MCDU for a second here, so this is straight off the flight plan. We actually want to use the actual numbers that are loaded in the aircraft, so we'll go to the payload page really quickly. Just let me have it for a second. And let's see here, ZFW 138.3. So quite a bit heavier than we had planned. 138.3, which means we might have to take off the D rate because that's going to be substantially heavier than planned. Let's see here. So that puts our gross weight at 58,200. Lots of people want to go to Vegas at the last minute. And it is going to make our takeoff weight too high. So for flap 5, we have a no D-rate takeoff with a selected temperature of 35. Flaps 5, and this gives us 144, 145, 153. I've got slightly different speeds here, but we'll go with these ones. 153. Let's get out of here. Let's skedaddle. Let's make sure that this is tracking me here. Flight simulator disconnected. Why is flight simulator disconnected? FSUIPC should be running. Crying out loud. I did have to restart the sim, and it seemed to want to do it. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to do just a little bit of technical troubleshooting here and see if we can't figure out why. Nope, that's not the right one. Okay, that was pretty easy. I did get it to work. There it is, flight simulator connected, and that's why I always check these things to make sure they're working. Alright, and it should actually be S738, not S739. I think we're going to match that much. We are ready to go. HUD's getting in position. Let's go ahead and do this. Before start checklist. Before start checklist.
5, 6, 5, set. Before start checklist, flight deck door, closed and locked, MCP.
Speed 153, heading 103, altitude 6,000. Altitude 6,000.
Takeoff speeds.
V1 144, VR 145, V2 153. V2 153.
CDU pre-flight.
Completed.
Rudder and aileron trim.
Checked and free. Free and 0.
Taxi and takeoff briefing.
Completed.
Anti-collision light on. Before start checklist complete.
Alright, he's ready, I'm ready. Anybody behind us?
Check.
Nobody behind us. Brakes are off, ready for pushback. I just want to see us pushing. Yeah, we are pushing. Start sequence is 1. Start sequence is 2, then 1.
Check.
Start engine 2.
Starting engine 2. Oil pressure.
25% M2.
Starter cutout.
Start engine 1.
Number 2 stable. Starting engine 1.
Honestly, I didn't even look to see if anybody's joining me today. Or am I all by myself?
Oil pressure.
All by myself today, guys. That's alright.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
Starter cutout. Number 1 stable.
Alright, we just need to see these guys step away just a little bit here.
Unlocking gear.
Keep the TCAS is on as well. Should probably have terrain on for this departure now that I'm looking at it, because it's a lot of high terrain around here. There he goes.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear. Right is clear.
Flaps 5. Flight control check.
Ready?
Full left, center, full right, center, full up, full down, center, full left, full right, center. Flight control check complete. Alright, I see the pin. Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist, generators on, probe heat on, anti-ice off, isolation valve auto, engine start switches continuous, recoil,
Checked.
check it, auto brake, RTO, engine start levers,
Idle detent.
flight controls,
Checked.
ground equipment,
Clear.
clear. Before start checklist complete.
Clear left.
Clear right.
Portland traffic, Alaska 670 is pushed back from gate Charlie 9, taxiing for departure runway 10 left. Which has me quite a bit of effort to get moving here, 33% just to get it rolling. Once she actually starts rolling, you can take a little bit of power off. And it's funny, I was having exams to do, can't fly. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, like you know, real life obviously takes precedence. I miss you guys when you're not around, but it's all right as long as you get a chance to watch, and hopefully we'll participate next time. I've got a couple of got quite a bit of time off actually in the month of May, so going to probably be doing hopefully slightly more frequent streams, and possibly even a couple of weekend streams. Maybe not this weekend. This weekend is absolutely insanely hectic, but next weekend, the weekend after, so the weekend of the 13th, I'll probably be doing a flight stream on the Saturday Maybe even on the Sunday as well. Like I said, I've got a fair bit of time off. I'm going to try and get some streaming done, and at a time when you guys can participate with me. So I know a lot of you guys daytime does not work, and I realize that, and I'm sorry. You know, it's the best time for me at the end of the day. Unfortunately, I know it doesn't work for a lot of other people, but I do appreciate you guys watching when you can, and we will definitely, when I can, I will do some weekend streaming or some evening streaming, and so you guys can participate. We'll have some good ATC streams coming up hopefully soon here. Why does this guy keep turning the transponder back to standby? Ugh, take over the transponder. This guy, he always looks to put it on standby. It's like 95% of airports now you have to have the transponder on the ground. Alright, so this is Echo. We're taking a right turn on Echo here and up there towards the threshold of 10 left. 90% of airports, it's just basically become a policy at almost every airline. Just have the transponder on at the second you leave the gate. All the time, just have it on, because even if you're at an airport that's not, it doesn't do any harm.
Flight deck? Okay, shukran. Captain, the cabin is secured.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, it doesn't do any harm to have the transponder on at most airports where there isn't ground surveillance radar, but then it's a habit, it's a normal procedure that when you are at an airport that does have it, it's always on. So FS2Crew seems insistent upon never using it, but most procedures, the Boeing manuals I think say you're supposed to turn it on at the end of the runway, but that's because most of the Boeing manuals were written 30, 40 years ago when airport surveillance radar was not a thing, but now everybody's got it. Everybody's got some sort of surface detection. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Flaps.
Flaps 5, green light.
Stabilizer trim.
4.9 units.
Before takeoff checklist completed.
I do like these. We are watching. Thank you. I do like these this variety of voices that they're starting to introduce in the FS2Crew. There's a good dozen different voices now, and it's really nice because you can change it up from time to time. You don't feel like it's repetitive. FS2Crew has talked about getting rid of them just because every once in a while they'll change the script, they'll add a new voice pack, and then they have to get all the people who've made a voice pack to re-record stuff. Clear left.
Clear right.
So they're talking about switching to using specifically AI-generated voices, and I understand their reasoning behind it, but it's going to lack the personality of actual pilots. It really is, like of actual people. I'm a little bit disappointed by that, and I hope that they will leave us the option of being able to use real person voices, because I get it. I get why they want to use the AI, so they can really quickly change stuff and they don't have to bother people to re-record stuff. But at the same time, there's just something nice about human voices. It just adds a real dimension of realism that I don't think any computer-generated voice is really going to quite understand. Yeah, AI will probably mispronounce terms like, well, yeah, they're going to have to do like weird things, like when you see it actually on the FS2Crew screen, V2, it's not, you know, the letter V followed by a 2. They usually put VEETWO to get it to speak properly. So there's tricks and ways to make it happen, but yeah, the terminology and just the character of flying, I think, will not be captured by AI voices. But anyways, here we are, ready to go. Runway entry procedure.
Okay. Cabin crew, take your seats. Clear for the approach.
Portland traffic, Alaska 670 take position, runway 10 left for departure, Cascade 2 departure.
Ready to go.
Takeoff.
Thrust set. $80 knots.
Checked.
V1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. Positive red.
Gear up.
Gear up. .400 feet.
LNAV, PNAV speed.
Check it.
N1.
Check it.
Flaps 1.
Speed check. Flaps 1 set.
Flaps up.
Speed check. Flaps up set.
Set flight level 350.
Flight level 350 set.
After takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist, engine bleeds on, backs, auto, landing gear, up and off, flaps, up and no light. After takeoff checklist complete. Happy to release the cabin crew?
Go for it.
Okay.
Just enjoying a bit of hand flying for once, but they don't do it a whole lot. I am watching the temperature for the anti-ice. We've got a TAT of plus 17 up here still, so I'm doing good on the TAT. It's fine.
Check it.
Select Command A.
Autopilot on. Autopilot on. $10,000. Happy to release the cabin?
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, we're underway. Still got a TAT of plus 14. We got some clouds up ahead. We might need the anti-ice in a minute, but we're doing pretty good. AI with different voices, totally possible. Yeah, it is totally possible. And I completely understand where FS2Crew is coming from in the idea that like they do tweak the script sometimes and have to add one or two new phrases, and then they've got to go and find everybody who recorded a voice pack and say, oh, we need just these 3 more phrases from you. Can you send us these when you get a chance? And then again, of course, you know, you got to bundle them all together. It takes time. I understand that. I totally understand that. And yeah, you could use different AI voices, but I think you're going to lose a lot of the human character to it still. I don't believe in AI voices being able to capture, especially something so niched and nuanced as aviation, where you're right, we have like such unique terms, such unique ways of saying things, and you know, yeah, they can do it, but I think it will go back to sounding kind of robotic. I don't think it's going to have the same impact as having humans do it. So, because that's something I've played with now, and I've kind of finished it. I'm kind of happy with it right now. I'm going to post it in my Discord sometime this week for my subscribers. Is my own personalized FS2Crew voice pack. So you'll be able to download it and pretend to fly with me. You'll get me, I will be your FO, or if you use button control, I can be the captain as well. I've recorded both the FO and the captain voice sets for the FS2Crew. So I'm going to include that in my Discord. I'm going to zip up all the files. The only trouble with it is that as I play with it, I realize that it's not as easy as just dropping a folder in. FS2Crew has a whole bunch of folders that have all the voice files in it, but the variety of voice folders is hard coded in the sim. So which folders it looks into is hard coded, not in the sim, it's hard coded into its software. So you can't add a new voice pack. The only way to add a new voice pack is by submitting it to FS2Crew, and they include it. So there will be a workaround though, and that workaround is that you can take my voice pack and unzip it and drop it on top of any of the existing voice packs, and then if you select that existing voice pack, it'll look in that folder and it'll use all the files that I've created that you've dropped into that folder instead of the default ones that came with FS2Crew. The drawback to that process is that every time you do an update to FS2Crew, it's going to overwrite all the files you've changed and put them back to their originals. So it's not a perfect workaround. It's the best I can come up with right now for those of you that want that privilege of flying with my voice. For those of you that have FS2Crew, I've only done the 737. I may do other ones in the future. The 737 especially was lengthy. There's 400 or 500 individual voice files you have to record to stitch all this together for all the different possible permutations and variables. So it's a lot of work. It was probably about 2 to 3 hours of me recording and re-recording stuff, and then I've done a number of flights with it because I've also listened to it and trimmed some of the stuff down. The real ones that I had to trim down with the numbers, where I see like 2974, it would be like there was such a large blank space at the beginning and end of every recording, so it would be like 2, 9, 7, 4. I've trimmed out most of the white space. The numbers come across a lot more naturally now. Most of the other stuff is kind of whole phrases, so it doesn't sound as bad. And it actually does sound, honestly, pretty good. There was not much in that center tank, was there? Just a little bit in the center tank. But yeah, I'm going to put that out on my Discord, hopefully this week, if I have time. I will try and get it out there this week. And I'm just going to hit that layer arm. Let's get that engine anti-ice on. Yeah, I'll get it out there on my Discord this week. You guys can play with it, drop it in there. It's really just intended as a treat for my subscribers, that something to reward. I don't have a whole lot of rewards for subscribers other than just the thank yous I give you personally. Thank you guys for subscribing. I do appreciate it. Any money that you put into my subscriptions goes back to do one of two things. It either goes back to support charitable flight sim related things like supporting Sim Toolkit Pro before they got bought by Navigraph. I supported SimBrief through donations, things like that, or just supports me purchasing more software. So it's not a whole lot of money, and it just basically goes right back into this hobby, and you guys see most of what happens on screen anyway. So where the money goes comes right back on screen again. Transition, set standard.
Standard set. Passing flight level 197. Now.
All right. One thing I meant to do when I first sat down, when we were getting ready to taxi out, and I did put the failure rate up there. So we are going to do. We got a bunch of people watching. We don't have as many as we had earlier. We've kind of lost a couple people, and I know I'm competing with Nomad Aviator, who's also streaming the Phoenix over on another stream. So I am going to put some in here. Random failures. We're going to put events per 10 hours. 5. Limited to 2 events. So that's how many people are watching right now. It's not a whole lot. 5 people. If you guys have friends that are, if you want to convince them to watch, as the number goes up, I'll raise this random failure rate. So that's not a failure. That's just the fuel pump showing low pressure because the tank is empty. But I will bump up that failure rate as we go, just to make life interesting. Hopefully something will fail. Hopefully it won't just be. And you know what I realized is that last flight that we did, when we had the failure that was not manifesting itself, I never even looked and saw what the failure was at the end of the day. I forgot by the end of the stream to go and look and see what the failure was. So yeah, when we had a failure that was active in the system, we never even figured out what it was, probably because it was something we didn't use. I don't even know what it was. It was such a minor failure, but something failed. And I was kind of looking through the video, and I'm like, and I said, oh, when we get there, if we haven't figured out what it is, we'll go and look and see what it is that failed. We forgot when we got there to go even look and see what failed. So there was something failed in the airplane, and we never figured out what it was. It didn't materially impact our operation in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully today we'll get, of course, now Portland Tower logs on. As soon as we're gone, Portland Tower is online. It never fails. How is the background noise volume? Because I was turning out the background noise a little bit as well. Is it hard to hear me over the background noise, or is the balance okay? Just let me know, because I feel like it's pretty loud. As I was giving the takeoff power, I'm like, wow, to me it sounds kind of like it's really loud right now. But let me know if you're having at all a hard time hearing me. I'll turn down the background noise just a little bit, because right now all it is the drone and the engines. So I may even turn it down even before you guys prompt me here, just to sort of make sure that it's not just not overpowering my voice to the point where you're straining to hear it, because I found that happens sometimes in streams. And I find this is one of those funny and amusing things that we do as Simmers. Okay, thank you, Hayden UK. I turned it down a little bit anyways, just because it's nothing but kind of a din right now. But it's one of those funny things that streamers, not streamers, but Simmers, are obsessed with the noise the airplanes make, and the number one thing pilots are trying to do when they're sitting in the flight deck is eliminate that engine noise. You know, putting on noise canceling headsets for most of the day so that you don't listen to all this engine noise. And here we are, you know, in the sim world, we're trying to bring this engine noise in, because without any kind of background noise, it sounds, of course, it doesn't sound realistic, but yeah, you don't want it to be too loud. Most of the time, the pilots, we don't have the engine noise very loud, because we usually have noise canceling headsets. Most people do. A lot of people do, and even the airlines will usually have them installed, although a lot of them are kind of cheap. The ones the airlines often buy for their airplanes, because they have to buy hundreds of them, are usually kind of cheap. They're not very well made. They're not very comfortable, especially after guys have been wearing them. The guys that don't bring their own headsets, the guys that have been wearing them for, you know, they've been used for hundreds, probably thousands of hours. They don't fit well. They're not particularly comfortable. I don't like. I can honestly say I've almost never enjoyed an airline headset, with the exception that there was one airline I had that for a while there was getting Bose A20s as their aircraft headsets. When they were Bose A20s, they were nice. That was nice, and I used to use those headsets. But every other one, we get these Sennheiser ones. The audio quality is good, but they're uncomfortable. I find these Sennheiser ones, they're very kind of flimsy. They're just not comfortable to wear. The A20s are big and they're heavy, but they're not uncomfortable. After 5 or 6 hours, sometimes they do start to get uncomfortable. But for most work days, the A20s are usually a very nice headset. But yeah, the airlines, because they are often, you know, they're equipping so many airplanes, they'll often go with what's a cheap deal, and they're often not the most comfortable headsets in the world when the airlines are buying headsets for the pilots. So you'll see a lot of airlines guys will bring their own headsets, and there's all sorts of different variations to it now. There's of course the traditional A20 type headsets, you know, the over-the-ear headsets. There's a lot of there's been a real kind of, I won't say a push, but there's been a lot of increasing variety of earbud style headsets, much lighter headsets, because they're kind of an earbud. They'll still have like a frame over the top, but they'll be in-ear headset, in-ear pieces, and they'll be a lot quieter and easier. And then you'll even get these guys that will buy like a standard Bose noise canceling headset. Because the thing about an A20, the A20s retail for like $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 now. Like, these are not cheap headsets. These are very expensive headsets. So what has become a cheaper alternative that a lot of guys are opting for is they'll buy commercial, like retail Bose noise canceling headphones. So I don't even know what model they are, but they're just the kinds you buy, like anyone could buy as an airline passenger, just for sitting in the back. It's just a noise canceling earphones without the microphone, and then you can buy a microphone attachment. So the noise canceling headphones from Bose, I think, are like $400 or $500, and then you buy this attachment piece that's like $150 to $200. That's a mic that you can then connect to the aircraft audio system. You know, you spent $800 now, but you're still, you know, you're laughing compared to the guy who's spending $1,500, $1,600 on an A20 at the end of the day. So, yeah, there's many ways to skin a cat. Lots of different kind of varieties out there, but a lot of different But the biggest name is that it's a noisy environment. The flight deck's a noisy environment. It really is, and guys are always trying to protect their hearing because you need it to last. If you spend 6 or 8 hours a day listening to these airplanes without noise canceling headsets, listening to this drone in the background, your hearing's not gonna last all that long. And some airplanes are definitely worse than others. Some airplanes are noisier than others. Older airplanes tend to rattle more, but it also depends on the size of your airplane and where you are. CRJs. I heard a story about a CRJ where the guys left the engines running after a flight and didn't even realize it and left the airplane because the engines are so far back that there's very little engine noise up in the flight deck. And even in the A320 family, you notice the difference between the 319, the 320, and the 321 in terms of engine noise is huge. The 319 is a very noisy airplane in the flight deck. Why? Because the engines are only like 30 feet away, as opposed to the 321 where the engines are like 60 feet away, 70 feet away. There's a big noticeable difference in the noise level in the flight deck just from how far you are from the engines. So I imagine the same is probably true of the Boeings. The 800 Boeing, you're talking that's probably about 40 feet from the flight deck to the engines. You talk about the smaller one, the 600, you probably are taking 10 to 15 feet off that distance. You talk about a 900, you're probably adding another 10 feet. So the bigger the airplane, the farther the engine away, the quieter the flight deck. It really does make a noticeable difference. Again, there's other factors that come into play, but it does make a difference for sure how far you are from those engines. And I'm sure you notice in the passenger cabin too, although the whole cabin's noisy. Engine noise is not the only noise too, though. That's the other trouble too. There's a lot of noise in the flight deck. There's a lot of rushing air. That outside view is so loud, sorry. I'll try and drop it down a notch before I go back into the outside view again. There's so much other noise in the flight deck too, though. Just air rushing in. All these flight decks usually have these, can't find it here. Yeah, there it is. These eyeball outlets, these eyeball vents that you can aim the air wherever you want, so the pilots stay nice and cool. But the sound of the air whooshing through those usually is quite loud. So most guys you'll often find will shut them just because unless it's really hot and you really feel like you need the air, it's just so much extra noise. All the air flowing over all these avionics. These avionics, it's crazy how much heat gets generated in the flight deck from all these avionics. But I mean, it is, but it's not. Like I think about this office that I'm in right now. When I run the sim for a couple of hours with the door closed, like I have right now, the temperature in this office goes up by definitely a couple degrees from running this computer with this, with the sim running and all this calculating going on. Well, there's a lot of computers in the flight deck here doing a lot of calculations, generating a lot of heat. So that there's always cooling fans on a lot of these things, on the screens, on the MCDUs, and there's air rushing away from there's air being ducted away from all these screens and everything to kind of keep the heat up, or to kind of not to keep the heat up, but to take the heat away. There's a lot of rushing air sounds in every flight deck too. So having that headset on sometimes it's really nice because you take out that ambient sound of air just rushing by you constantly. It blows my mind how many people don't wear good quality headsets, and how many people go out and do walkarounds at an airport without earplugs in. Yeah, it's only a couple of minutes. It's only 5, 6, 7 minutes for you to go walk around the entire airplane and come back in. But you're talking about one of the noisiest industrial environments out there. An airport is one of the noisiest environments you can be in. You're talking oftentimes 100 decibels on a regular basis out there. And I see these guys, and I did it when I was young, and I look back and question my folly. Like I used to work the ramp, and we had headsets, but sometimes the headsets were just sort of pooled. They were kept in the office. It wasn't like every guy got their own headset. It was one pool of like 4 or 5 headsets in the office. So if you need to go marshal an airplane in or go work around a noisy airplane, you'd go and grab a headset. Sometimes you'd be out doing something, and they grab you to go marshal an airplane, and you wouldn't have time to go get a headset, so you just do it without. And I look back at how much time I spent without headsets on, without ear protection, with jet engines running, 100 feet away from me, and I'm a little sad at myself for all those years of doing that, and hopefully I didn't permanently damage my hearing from that. But I see people still doing it. I'm very careful about that sort of thing now. I won't go outside without earplugs in, just because of the sheer volume of the noise. And even if it's not noisy right now, you just never know when another airplane's going to pull up, when someone's going to fire up an APU. Or some other piece of equipment near you. You don't know. You've got to assume it's going to be noisy outside of an airport. Alright, almost there. 35,000's our cruise altitude. Let's check our proc page here. We're showing a landing in Las Vegas at 16:22, so it was a little bit later than we wanted to get going here. I think it was probably about 14:30 by the time we got going. My goal was 14:15, and that did not happen, partly because of having to reboot the sim and a bunch of other stuff that happened this morning that really kind of frustrated me. Things that I ended up not planning on doing that I ended up having to do before I could get started here. So just some days, all you want to do is just have a little bit of fun. Roger. All you want to do is have a little bit of fun, and it just never seems to work that way. All right, now how is this thing doing? Nope, my overlay is completely non-functional. And I've found this a couple times where it just sort of seems to lock right up. And I thought it was better, but it is not. That's what I was afraid of. See, I've played with this a couple times. I can see this overlay at the top here is just not moving at all. It seems to be frozen at the point where we were on the ground. Let's see here. Let's see if I can play with this a little bit here. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I'm going to try changing this up a little bit here because I don't know why it's not working, why it's not updating. So let's see if I can get this to update here, ever. What I end up having to do is restart the software. Seems to be the only way to get it to start working again. It was working well before, and then it stopped. So it'll work now. Hopefully it'll stay working. And then of course it resets my origin destination, so I gotta reset that again. I might have to find something different. I thought I had found something and it seemed to work, but I've noticed that it tends to lock up after a period of time. It streams the information for about 20 minutes and then it kind of gives up on it. It just freezes with whatever it had at the time, and the only way it seems to do anything with it is just to restart it. So anyways, I'm trying to stay away from my previous overlay software just because there was so much overhead to it. It was so much overhead. It was very cumbersome. Anywho, all right, so we're underway. Just about to come up to Poly. So what we'll do is we'll do a quick little, what am I trying to say here? We'll do a quick little position check when we get to Poly here. We're just kind of in and out of the clouds here too. It's only a tad of -21, but the SAT is, -50. So generally below -40, you can take the engine anti-ice off because when it's -40, there's so little moisture in the air that you don't need the engine anti-ice. And I believe we determined that from looking at the PMDG manual or the the Boeing manual about 5 or 6 flight streams ago, quite a while ago. But all right, so what else what's happened recently? So, anyways, one thing that happened, and I thought I'd just chat about it briefly because it's got a few aviation connections. So, and you're gonna laugh about this, but it was a little bit of unfortunate news. I woke up this morning and one of the first things I read was that Gordon Lightfoot passed away, I believe yesterday at the age of 84, which is definitely a little bit sad. There's a man who was a fantastic musician. And I think he did a great job of sort of capturing a certain aspect of Canadian culture and creating a certain aspect of Canadian culture. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. And a man who just loved music. From the time he released his first albums back in the 1960s, he has been a relentless tourer. He's 84. He was still supposed to go on tour this year. His tour was canceled this year due to health issues just a few weeks ago. But he was still planning to go on tour this year. Aged 84, the man is just relentless. He will not stop, which is just fantastic. I mean, when you find something you love, you do it. You do it till you die. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. But just find something you love. Just do it. Don't give up on it. And he didn't. He was someone who he loved music. He loved performing. He loved sharing his music with other people, and so he did it. He kept on doing it. So, yeah, Gordon Lightfoot will be missed, but it's a little bit interesting. There's a couple of interesting aviation connections in here. So the first one, it kind of takes me way back. So I remember when I was a kid. You know, my parents were Gordon Lightfoot fans, and they weren't like avid, like crazy, like Gordon Lightfoot fans, but they did have a couple of his albums. They did play them on a regular basis when I was a kid. I do remember listening to Gordon Lightfoot songs, and I liked them at the time. I could sing along with them. They're very catchy. They're I won't say they're simple, but they're definitely catchy. They've got good good hooks. There's good. They've got great lyrics. Usually fairly easy to learn. Yeah, he was a great artist, and so I do remember that. I have that memory of growing up in my house, and my parents had records. They had LPs, Gordon Lightfoot LPs, and they played them quite a bit. They liked Gordon Lightfoot. This was the 1970s, the 1980s. You know, Gordon Lightfoot was still pretty big in the 70s. So I remember that, and then. When I grew up, I moved away, I went to school, I got my own life, and I really didn't think too much about Gordon Lightfoot for a very long time. At typical teenage rebellion, you know, I listened to my own music. My music's better than your music. You know, and I got away from all the stuff my parents would listen to, and I got to my own music. And then it was circa 2010, around 2010. I was working in the charter business way back in the day, and I can't remember exactly whether we were empty or whether we were bringing somebody back, but one day we were heading back. I can't even remember we were heading down. We were flying over somewhere over like upstate New York, upstate Pennsylvania, on a charter, just cruising along, my first officer and me, and pretty quiet, uneventful day, so we just off for a little bit of a lark. We thought we'd entertain ourselves. And how did you used to entertain yourselves in an airplane back in the day, before you had cell phones and GPS? Well, you'd go down here and you'd tune in the ADF, and you'd go find something. You'd go find a radio station. So you try like 590 or 640 or something like that, and these are all AM radio stations. And you go ahead and you throw the ADF, listen on the ADF, and put it on 590 and flip it over, and instead of hearing an ident of some non-directional beacon, you can listen to the radio, and the ADF will actually point you at the radio station as well. But you get all these AM frequencies in here, so we're just kind of playing with it. The one day we're a little bit, it was a very quiet, kind of quiet day. We're playing with it, start scrolling through some AM frequencies, and all of a sudden, who's playing on the radio? On some random AM station. I have no idea what the frequency was or what the station was, but suddenly the strains of Gordon Lightfoot just filled my headphones. Just cruising along at altitude back in the day in our little turboprop, and it just instantly just took me back like 15 years, like just back into my childhood. It's like, oh my god, like I haven't heard this stuff in 10-15 years, and it just took me right back. And it was such a it's such a funny little thing to just happen to hear that right there. We're in somewhere in the middle of the U.S. and we happen to hear that, and yeah, it sort of started a little bit of a renaissance for me of Gordon Lightfoot. I was like, oh, I remember Gordon Lightfoot. I enjoyed it when I was a kid, and I enjoyed certain songs anyways, and so I started listening to Gordon Lightfoot again. And it's funny, like that first officer, she was with me for a lot, and for my birthday that year, yeah, I'm the kind of person that when I fall for music, I fall for it hook, line, and sinker. I can't help. When a song gets stuck in my brain, I want to listen to it endlessly. I sing it endlessly myself until I drive everyone around me nuts. So I did this like for a little while. Like all these Gordon Lightfoot songs are just constantly spilling out of my brain. So my first officer, actually for my birthday that year, she got me a Gordon Lightfoot CD. I still have it in my car. I still every once in a while I listen to it. But and my wife says the same thing. That was the year that she was pregnant. She says every time she hears a Gordon Lightfoot song now, it takes her back to pregnancy, because I listened to so much Gordon Lightfoot for that year that she was pregnant. It was back in my brain, back in my mind again, and I couldn't help but just keep on listen to it constantly. So but it's funny how it was just this random chance of just tuning in an ADF radio, which I almost never did either. It was just something that we just sort of did for a lark, that we didn't really do it all that often, but just on the lark that day we just you know what, kind of bored, let's see what's playing on the local radio stations, and we just happened to tune it in somewhere in the US, and we hear Gordon Lightfoot playing, and that sort of triggered that renaissance for me of Gordon Lightfoot, and I've listened to him on and off ever since again. But yeah, through my early 20s, I never really listened to it, and then I got back into it. Yeah, people still do that. It's so rare though now, because first of all, so many airplanes do not have ADFs. The ADFs are such ancient technology. Most modern airplanes built in the last 25 years do not have ADFs. The Airbuses don't have ADFs anymore. The Embraers didn't have. A couple of them had ADFs, but most of them did not have ADFs. Most airplanes don't have ADFs, so you can't tune them in anymore. This is something. This is kind of a little bit of a gag. That's not a gag, but a little bit of a tradition that's dying now, because most airplanes don't have ADS, but that's okay, because the FCC is killing the AM radio band anyways. They're talking about shutting down the AM radio band in the next couple of years, because automakers stopped putting AM radios in their cars. There's so few people listening to AM radio that the FCC is just talking about shutting it down and repurposing the band. How long can you actually stay on a station before you lose range? Well, and that's the nice thing about AM radio too. Like AM radio being lower frequency, the waves do tend to bend and follow the curvature a lot more, so you can get it from a lot further away than an FM station. So you can, and especially because we're line of sight, we're flying 4, 5, 6 miles above the surface of the air. Like our line of sight is hundreds of miles sometimes. So yeah, you could, if you get it as you enter the range and then keep it the whole time, like you could be 300 miles probably listening to the same AM radio station before you start to lose it out the other side again, and so you could be 30, 45 minutes of listening to the same station. People used to listen to the Fan 590 in Toronto, and they'd hear the scores of the hockey games and whatnot on their ADF radio while they're cruising along. They can give their passengers updates, or they at least know what the score of the games are. So yeah, it's something that's why it goes so low, is you can actually use this. And if you look on VFR navigation charts, VNCs, it used to be that they used to mark the location of all the AM radio stations on the charts. The transmitters for all their AM radio stations, so you could use them like an NDB. It's not legally an NDB. It's not like you're going to do an approach from it, but if you need something to kind of give you a little bit of a bearing of where you are, you can. Most of these AM radio stations were marked with their frequency. Let me see here. Let me just see if I can find one more thing here for you. It used to be, and I don't know if it's the case anymore, so I'm going to try and figure it out here. You used to even have a list of radio stations. And I'm just trying to find it here. Here it is. Yep, it's still included. So if you get the Canada Flight Supplement, which is the guide to airports and aviation in Canada, commercial broadcasting stations, it still lists in the CFS here. So in the same document where you can find information about various airports and airspace all over Canada, you can still also find the list, where to go here, of commercial broadcast stations, and it gives the longitude of the commercial station, the frequency, their relative power, and their location. And it used to be also included on the charts. I don't know if it is still included on the charts, but it's right here in the back of the CFS. So yeah, technically not in official navigation aids, but the position of these stations don't change. It's known. You can use them to navigate. They won't necessarily have the integrity, but yeah, they're basically, this is all a non-directional beacon was back in the day. It was just a transmitter that sent out a bunch of beeps on a certain frequency, just like all these AM radio stations were broadcasting on certain frequencies. So it's actually in the CFS. You can actually look it up and figure out what stations you can listen to, where they are, etc. So yeah, that's really kind of neat. There's another second connection too, to Gordon Lightfoot that's a little bit funny for me. That back in the day, we went to a place, again, flying the same aircraft, circa around the same time, maybe a year or so later, flying the same aircraft, we went to a place called St. Simon's Island, which is a little luxury resort on the east coast of Georgia. I think my overlay has frozen yet again. I gotta find the overlay. I thought this one worked, but I was able to get to work kind of the other day. Some of it's frozen, some of it's not, I think. St. Simon's Island. So it's a little place on the southeast coast of Georgia. It's right on the shoreline. It's an island. It's a bit of a kind of a resort, preferred kind of by some generally wealthier people, although there are some lower class. But you know, it's kind of like one of these nice little small towns. There's a small little village there, lots of kind of resort hotels around, some really nice beach, some nice golf courses, etc. So we were down there one day with I believe it was the owner of the aircraft had gone down there, and we're killing some time, and they put us up in a decent resort, and we saw this just little bar right on the corner of the road that led into the resort. Of course, my first officer and me, nothing else to do. We're there for like 3 days. It's like, okay, well, you know, let's go have a beer and let's go have a beer, go have some dinner, whatever. So we go down there. We're walking down the road just to the front of the hotel, just to this bar. And as we're walking around the corner, of course, what do we hear? We hear these strains of Gordon Lightfoot coming out of this bar deep in Georgia. And we're just thinking to ourselves, like, what are the odds, like, we'll find the one place that's playing Canadian music? So we walked in this bar, and it was actually a gentleman who was from, I believe, Nashville, who was actually playing. He just had a guitar and a microphone. He's just playing live music in this bar. But like, one of his favorite artists is Gordon Lightfoot, and he's playing all these Gordon Lightfoot fans. We kind of sat at the table pretty close to his microphone, and started chit-chatting with him between songs, and happened to mention we're from Canada as well. He's like, oh, I got tons of Gordon Lightfoot songs. I can play them till cows come home. So we spent hours there just, you know, listening, just enjoying live music and songs we really enjoyed. It was really kind of fun. Takes me way back. That you're talking now 12, 13 years ago at least. And then there's actually one more connection from Gordon Lightfoot to aviation. Something else that you guys probably don't know, and if you weren't involved in aviation, you probably wouldn't know, but Gordon Lightfoot's son is also a pilot. Decided that he didn't want to follow in his father's footsteps, but he is a pilot. I don't even know what airline he works for. I don't know him personally. I just I was aware he went to the school that I used to go to, yeah. But yeah, I don't know if he even still is a pilot. You know, people get out of this business all the time. But isn't that one more little connection to get you connected here to Gordon Lightfoot and aviation? But anyways, it's kind of a little bit sad that he's passed away. He certainly left a great legacy of music, and the world is better for having known his music. Hopefully, it will last into eternity. Pardon me. Alright, just gonna have a quick little look here at this here. So I totally missed it there. I started my little rant there about Gordon Lightfoot and totally missed that position check. So let's pull up our flight plan here and let's get this position check done here. So at Poly, let's see here, there it is. I like it blue just because it makes it easier to spot it here. So we were over Poly at 1459 Zulu, and we had 14.8 tons of fuel, or 14.8 on the fuel, which is 800 higher than planned, and that means we should pass Rufus at 14. Let's just do the math really quickly here, and we're actually going to pass Rufus in just a moment here. 27. Sometimes math is hard. But this is the way we used to do it. Whoever was not flying had to do the math test every flight. But I mean, you start doing it enough times, it starts to become a little bit easier. It becomes a little bit more second nature the more you do it. And the numbers are usually not hard. You're dealing with just adding up minutes here, so. This way you can check and make sure you're not falling behind. If you are falling behind, you try and search for a reason. Is the wind stronger than forecast? Is there something going on, something sinister going on? It's not usually something sinister, but it could be. You never know. Something's not right here. This says Vegas at 16:21. Oh no, that is right. That is right. Yeah, just over an hour from now. Yeah, okay, never mind. 16:27. So I mean, depending on the approach you do and everything, but very much within reason. And we're just about to pass Rufus here, so we'll do a second check here when we pass Rufus. Make sure that everything is still hunky-dory. All right. Thanks to my internet sleuthing, Eric Lightfoot is no longer a pilot. Flew for Sea to Sky Air. Yeah, see, I didn't know him personally. He's not like he was a friend of mine. I thought it was a little bit amusing that happened to be a pilot as well. So a little bit more of a connection, just to help make this more relevant on stream. But I've always just thought he was a great musician. I've always enjoyed his music, even in the years in between when I forgot that I enjoyed his music. Yeah. So what else can we talk about here? So there's one other interesting thing that came up this week, and I definitely take some issue with it. And that is, it came out that SkyWest, which is a regional airline in the U.S., for those of you that aren't familiar, and I think probably everyone that's watching this channel is, because I'm pretty sure I did a season of SkyWest. But SkyWest, anyways, is a regional carrier in the U.S., and they recently filed an application with the FAA to open up a charter subsidiary. They want to open up an air taxi subsidiary below their as a subsidiary to their airline business, and the reason is because they want to start offering charter flights to some of these essential air service cities that they have not been able to maintain the service to because of the pilot shortage. And I take some major issues with this, because it depends on how they really truly want to run the operation. But it sounds like what they want to do is they just want to use this as an excuse to be able to hire 250-hour pilots to fly their airplanes, smaller airplanes, but to fly the commercial routes that are not viable with larger airplane, only because they don't have the staff to do it. And so they're trying to circumvent the 1,500-hour rule in the U.S. By starting up an air taxi subsidiary, a charter subsidiary, and then they can go and pick up their passengers using this subsidiary. And it starts a very slippery slope. The whole point of the 1,500-hour rule is that before you start getting people into aircraft where they are providing commercial service, especially selling tickets to individuals, they've reached a certain level of experience, and you don't want someone who's the ink is barely dry on their license running these kind of operations, working these kind of operations. But that's sort of what SkyWest is trying to do. So the Airline Pilots Association has objected quite strenuously. The FAA does not seem to have a problem with it, and again, I don't have a problem with it if they really do truly want to just open up a charter subsidiary. But I have my suspicions. I am a little bit suspicious about it. I think they're just trying to backdoor their way around this. So there goes Rufus. Pull this right back up again here. So clock says 15:16. I may have missed that one, so I'll round it down by 1 minute, 15:15 and 13.1. Either way, the bottom line is that we might be running a little bit behind, might have a stronger headwind than the forecast, but we're still well up on fuel, up by about 600 pounds above the plan. It's very reasonable. And even then, the plan had some 25 minutes of extra fuel as well, so very reasonable to expect that we're going to get to Las Vegas. It really comes down to what really truly is their intention. I mean, if they just want to just open up an additional supplementary business to generate some supplementary income, expand their business overall, then that's fine. And I don't have a problem with SkyWest opening up a charter operation. Where I take issue is if they're trying to just, again, like I said, provide the same service they were providing but with less experienced pilots. That's where I begin to take issue with it. The FAA set these minimums for a reason. Well, Congress set these minimums for a reason. They feel that people should have a certain amount of experience before they get in the flight deck of a commercial airline or start selling tickets to individual people off the street to go and fly on these airplanes. And SkyWest, as a charter business, they can't sell individual tickets. They just rent the entire airplane as one unit. But there's ways around that then, if you because you can rent that airplane to anybody, and that person could in turn potentially turn around and sell tickets. Whether that's legal or not is perhaps a little bit of a gray area, but it's definitely possible. And yeah, it just it really depends on what SkyWest's intentions are, but it certainly wouldn't be the first airline that tried to sidestep a regulation by creating some subsidiary company or trying to work under a different set of regulations. And the air taxi regulations in the U.S. and in most countries around the world are generally looser than the airline regulations. The idea being that people who are renting, chartering an entire aircraft have a little bit more insight into the aviation industry. They understand a little bit more about what they're getting into, whereas people flying on a major airline, people flying on American and Southwest and Delta and whatnot, they have an expectation of a certain level of safety that is going to be maintained, an ultimate level of safety that's going to be maintained. That is not necessarily always there in the charter business. Again, it comes down to what they're trying to sell it as. If they're trying to sell it as just charters separately and completely independent of SkyWest's other obligations and airline routings, then that's fine. But if they're trying to just find a way to provide service to some of these small cities with a small aircraft with inexperienced pilots, just to sell a couple of tickets and connect them to everyone else to the rest of the network, I start to take issue with that. And I will 100% acknowledge it's a bit of a gray area. It depends on what they're trying to do, but I certainly hope that the FAA is going to scrutinize them carefully and what they're doing and what their passengers are doing, because if all they're doing is just simply flying a small airplane from Cheyenne, Wyoming down to Denver with a 250-hour pilot in the left seat and the right seat, maybe nobody in the right seat, who knows, because we can't afford to provide that service on a CRJ anymore, or even a Dash 8. And here's an interesting thought too. Like the Dash 8 has an aircraft, and the ATR. Well, the ATR is never really available in North America, but the Dash 8 as an aircraft in the U.S. has basically been phased out as a commuter aircraft. The CRJ is the starting line. Why? Why not go and use the Dash 8? The Dash 8 has a service reliability level along the same lines as a CRJ, but it's a lot more economical to operate than the CRJ. You're talking about a fuel consumption rate that is generally half of what the CRJ is consuming for running similar routes. For some of these smaller routes, maybe it's time to go back to the era of the turboprop. And I'm not talking about going down and flying a King Air. I'm talking about like a transport category turboprop. The U.S. airlines got completely out of the turboprop business in the last 10 to 15 years. With the pilot shortage the way it's going right now, maybe it's time to think about revisiting that. And not that it will necessarily alleviate the pilot shortage, but it certainly does reduce the cost for the airlines. It allows them to perhaps put more money towards pilot compensation to keep people coming in the door, instead of flying these expensive jets around everywhere. But we can't afford to pay the pilots that are flying them, so we just don't have pilots anymore because we just don't bother to pay them. I don't think that's a silver bullet that's going to solve their problem, but it certainly probably has compounded the problems for these regional airlines. And a lot of these regional airlines have gone to their big brother airlines and said, look, we just cannot afford to operate the contracts as they're written right now. We have, whatever these capacity purchase agreements are in effect for 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years. The economic reality has changed completely for these airlines. And some of the major airlines are on board and say, yeah, we recognize that the economic reality has changed, and we'll stipulate that, and we'll amend the rates on the contract to reflect the fact that you have to pay 30, 40, 50% more for labor than was originally factored into the contract. But some of the major airlines are just going, nope, this is the contract we signed. You find a way to honor it. You do whatever you got to do to honor it. Some of these airlines are losing millions of dollars a year, tens of millions of dollars a year, because they're paying just to keep the contract going, to keep the airline running, because they're paying the pilots so much, but the rates that they negotiated with the major airline to provide these flights just do not reflect the current salary realities. It's the trouble with signing these long-term 5-10 year contracts is that the economic realities can change quite substantially in that time. Inflation averages 2%, but it does not constantly climb at 2%. It goes in fits and spurts. It'll level off for a little while, then it'll suddenly jump a huge amount. Hopefully it'll average out to 2% if that's what your contract is sort of working for, and it'll work to somebody's advantage if it's higher or lower. But yeah, it almost begs the question, like, is the regional airline going to die a slow death in North America now? Or maybe even not such a slow death? Are the mainline airlines going to look at it and say, well, since you guys have to pay almost what we pay to get pilots in the door, why are we even bothering to operate a whole separate subsidiary company? One of the biggest arguments behind running these regional airlines was the idea that being a smaller company, a separate smaller company, they could provide the flights at a much lower cost than the mainline carriers with their fairly fixed structures, their fixed labor rates and everything. These smaller companies come in, they're more nimble, they're smaller, they can open up an operation faster. They don't have the legacy costs that these carriers have. You know, decades of pensions and high wages that have been negotiated for years by all these contracts. That was the whole point of these regional airlines, is to provide these services to these smaller communities that otherwise probably wouldn't get an airline service if they had to pay, if passengers had to pay for all these long-term structural costs. But with the salaries in the regional airlines going the way they're going, is that even feasible anymore? It doesn't even make sense. Are they really saving money by farming out these small flights, these CRJ flights, to these other carriers? A lot of times these smaller flights used to be done by the mainline carriers. A lot of these mainline carriers used to operate the CRJs or the Dash 8s or whatever was providing this feeder service, and then they sold the airplanes, or leased the airplanes out to these regional airlines and farmed all the business out to the regional airlines, who then paid pilots less to do it. It's a business model that's kind of gone on for, kind of been solidified for a good 25, 30 years, ever since deregulation really came into force. But maybe it's a business model that's now ending. And maybe that'll be the future. Maybe more and more of these airlines will bring the flights into the main line. And maybe operating CRJs will not be feasible in the future. Maybe the manufacturers all got out of the business because they saw the writing on the wall. They said that there's not going to be a future for the regional airline market. If you're paying, you know, a combined $250,000 to $300,000 a year for the two guys that sit up front, is it really worth flying them around in a CRJ? What if instead of providing daily service in a CRJ, we buy a 320 instead? We provide 3 times a week service or 2 times a week service instead of daily service. And yeah, the communities lose out, but that's the way the airlines are going to start looking at it. We don't have the people. The people that we do have cost too much money for the kind of service we're trying to provide, and maybe we can change the way the service is structured. So I think you're going to see a lot more communities lose certainly daily airline service, or maybe multiple times a day. Instead of running multiple 3 flights a day, maybe we'll just reduce it to 1 flight a day in a 37 or an Airbus, and at least we're getting good money's worth for the pilots who are paying to sit there. Is that the future of regional flying? That might be. That might be the only way some of these cities can maintain service, if they don't have enough people. Because if you're paying if you're paying, you know, $250,000 to the people that sit in the front of the RJ, there's not enough people in the back dividing the cost amongst them to really justify that flight. So maybe it's the beginning of the end of the airline business in North America. Not the airline business, but the regional airline business in North America. Certainly as a subsidiary of the major carriers. Maybe there will always be some smaller regional airlines that just provide just a small regional service, but operating as feeder airlines for the major airlines might be becoming more and more a thing of the past. Certainly in the capacity purchase agreement model that's been very prevalent for the last 30 years, where the major airline sells the tickets on the regional flight, and they just pay the regional airline to operate the flight. We just pay you X number of dollars for the plane to fly from here to there. We sell all the seats on it. That business model may be starting to die out. I read a statistic that something like 30% of the regional aircraft in the United States are parked right now, mothballed. And the simple reason is because these regional airlines just cannot hire enough people. The majors have snapped up all the pilots, and the regionals cannot hire enough pilots to keep their airplanes running. So they've just parked as much as a third of the fleet in the United States is just parked in deserts and whatnot, in hangars, waiting, hoping one day that there might be enough pilots to fly them. Is that the beginning of the end? Who knows? I don't think anything's going to fail today, is it? Here we are just trucking along, having a great conversation, and nothing's failing. Everything works on this airplane. Oh well. You know what I missed out on telling you guys about. I just realized that this there was a little contest here to win a couple of prizes here. If I can find it here, it's on my dashboard. I was just reading this the other day when I was looking through this flight ahead of time. Slowly thinks about it. There it is. When the only failure is the lack of failures. It's been 1 year now since Chapter 2 of A Pilot's Life launched, and to celebrate, they had a little survey here and a giveaway for people who did the survey. Unfortunately, this expired yesterday evening, so I missed telling you guys about this, and I'm sorry about that. I was originally planning to do this on Monday, and I did not have a chance to do it on Monday, so getting it done today, I missed this chance, but yeah, hopefully I entered it. Hopefully I get to win a prize. I'd love to get another Sim Market gift card. I could always find something to do with that. And we did get a salary income credit as well last week. $145 for my 5-hour voyage from San Francisco out to JFK. I got $145. It's slowly building up. I look at what some of these people have made, the bank balance some people have in the community, and it's insane. It's crazy. But some of the people, people are doing this like daily. Like I do this like once a week to once every second week. Because I'm doing this all live on stream. I really kind of would love to start a second parallel career where I could just have sort of fun, just do as many as I could and try and get up there. Some people have a lot of money, $120,000 and 181,000 experience points. Even number 500 has $55,000. I've got $3,800. Even experience level number 500 has got 12,000 points. I've got less than 2,000. People have done a lot of flights here. But I mean, if you do the math here, 6,000 pilots and 300,000 registered flights. The average pilot on this system has done 50 flights. I've probably done 50 flights. I've probably done 50 flights over the course of two careers and everything, if you include 1 and 2. But current flight's 191. Always bring this up, and it's always kind of fun to just see where everybody else is flying. Lots of European, quite a lot of North American. North America's just a little bit more spread out. Where are we? We are here somewhere. We should be here. Does it not show me? Is it not showing me? It's not showing me for some reason. Maybe it doesn't show you yourself. I don't think I'm even logged in, so I don't know why it's not showing where I am here. Lots of people are flying this. It's constantly being flown. Like that's a lot. 5.7 million, 507, half a million hours logged in just over a year for 6,000 pilots, of which probably only several hundred, maybe 1,000, are like really kind of regularly active. A lot of people probably buy the software and kind of like meh, fly it a few times. It's kind of fun and give up on it. How many people are really truly active on it? Anywho. Yeah. What else can we talk about here? We're going to start setting up for our descent here soon, because I'm seeing Las Vegas already scrolling into view there. Interesting news that came out this week. PMDG still working on their EFB. Apparently they had a really good kind of beta release that is making the team very happy. They've been kind of struggling with it, and people have been getting a little disheartened, so it's good to see that it's kind of still lurching towards release. It's tough to get data in and out of the sim. Asobo put up such strong walls and such strong security that's hard to get outside data into the sim, and a lot of stuff like Navigraph charts and things just relies on data that comes from the internet, downloads from the internet. So how do we deal with this? So yeah, PMDG's had to kind of find ways to work around it, and all the developers have had to find ways to work around it, running external programs that can then talk to the sim itself instead of being able to directly access stuff externally from the sim websites and download information from the sim. And I get, I get security. I get that we need to have security, but there's got to be a few doors open to allow these developers to do the wonderful things they've done. FSX and P3D demonstrated what these developers can really do, what they're capable of when you start getting into it. The active skies, but the Navigraph charts integrated into the aircraft and everything. But you need real-time information from outside the airplane, so you need to be able to allow that. So PMDT says they're making progress on that. I'm eagerly awaiting that day. One day we're going to get a tablet. One day we're going to be shocked when I wake up and there's a tablet, and it'll be great. The one thing I read this week that just made me laugh, and I probably made you guys laugh, and I would think it was just yesterday, Flt Field there announced that they were releasing a rendition of Boston Logan Airport, and I just had to laugh. Fly Tampa's Boston came out like a year ago, and it's not even that expensive. I believe it's like $20 US for their Boston. Maybe it is more. But one thing I'll say is Fly Tampa is always worth it. The biggest issue with Fly Tampa is just sometimes the performance issues that come from it. They put out some fantastic software, but it is it can be expensive. $18.99 US. That's not a bad price for a Fly Tampa. Fly Tampa used to charge regularly like $30 for all their P3D and all their P3D scenery. So they've sliced a third off their average prices here in MSFS versus Field Air's Boston, which is I think $9 something, and still is probably not worth it. And everyone described it as a budget-friendly rendition of Boston. I find their scenery is always a bit cartoonish. And I think the reason comes is that I think a lot of their scenery ends up being based on their tower scenery. So there goes another waypoint. Let's just do one more quick fuel check here. If I can pull this up really quickly. No, not that one. Where's my... I can't find my flight plan. I can't find it. Did I close it? There it is. I found it. Okay. So 1534 at Lamia. Yeah, we're about 1 minute behind still. That's not terrible. 1534. Fuel in the tanks, 11.4. Yeah, we're still up by 0.7. So, yeah, we're averaging 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, something around there. So we're definitely not losing any great amount of fuel. We're still more or less on target and staying more or less on target. Yeah, I think what Field Air has done is basically just taken what they've developed for their tower simulator, which the tower simulator is not bad. Again, a little bit cartoonish. It's not hyper-realistic, but it's not about the graphics as much as it is about the experience. It's pretty good. You look around, but the airports are kind of clean and sterile. But I think what they do is they simply take that and export it into the P3D or into the MSFS environment. And the trouble with that is, yeah, they're airports which kind of are great sort of basic rudimentary representatives, are not very detailed models. They're just not very detailed because they don't need to be for the tower simulator. The tower simulator, you're mostly looking for airplanes moving around the tower, moving around the airport around you. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, I just find their models are often a bit cartoonish, especially at night. The lighting tends to be very just like, oh, it's just here's a wall of bright blue windows, and that's our night lighting. I've had a few Field Air airports in the past. I was not terribly impressed with them. So I find it funny that they would even bother to put any effort at all into Boston. When Fly Tampa's been out there, you'll probably find a few suckers in there who don't know any better. And I hate to use the term suckers. Probably novices is probably a better way to put it, but that's basically the way Field Air is thinking, is we'll find some suckers that will hopefully pay for our scenery. Hopefully the development cost is not too high, and that's why they can afford to just distribute it for $10. But I just thought there's a scenery that I will never buy. I will never come close to buying. I will forego all their sceneries and wait till something better comes out, because I want the detail. I'm going for fidelity. I want the detail. And it's funny, I've read this too. People are talking about the ATR and the expert ATR, which I do take some issue with that. It's not a particularly high level aircraft. It is somewhat detailed. Most people kind of analogized it, compared it to the Aerosoft CRJ. The buttons do stuff, and you kind of have to play with the buttons to make stuff work, but the systems are not deep there. The buttons just sort of like yes or no. Okay, yes, you can push. If you push this button, then you can do this. It's not like the depths of the systems are modeled, the different pressures and electricity flowing and things like that. Nothing into that level is modeled, and so you don't get like good failures out of it. But yeah, you need to press the buttons in the right order for the start sequence to work. But it's not because the systems are modeled deeply underneath and there's not a lot of good failures in it. So people have it's gotten some mixed reviews from everything I've read. Some people are like, yeah, it's fun to fly. Other people are like, it's not an expert level aircraft. And that I think is probably the biggest thing people are complaining about with it, is it's not, the expert label is a bit of a misnomer. It's not an expert level aircraft. It's a what am I trying to say here? it's a systems light airplane. It's better than a default airplane, and definitely some time and effort was put into making sure all the buttons on the flight deck do something. But I just take issue with the idea of expert. To me, an expert level aircraft is something that will have actual failures, that you have to run the systems correctly, and that the systems will react appropriately. That you will see, the bleed temperatures will increase if you don't run the systems properly. You'll get potential failures out of it. Again, it comes down to that expert moniker. When they put that expert moniker on there, I expect some pretty good systems depth. I expect some simulated failures potentially. Anybody can throw a couple of buttons and point the airplane at the sky and make it go. But how do you handle like a real emergency? If there's no failures simulated in the aircraft, I don't ever consider it really to be an expert level aircraft. So I think that's the biggest problem, and I'm debating the ATR. I think it'd be a fun little airplane. I actually finally saw one the other day. I was in Winnipeg and I saw a Comair ATR, but you don't see a lot of them in North America in real life. But I did actually, funny enough, see one just the other day. But it's that expert moniker that really kind of bugs me about it. I think it's probably worth the money, because especially if you own the deluxe version of Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's only like $17 or something like that. Like, it's not an expensive aircraft. So I might go and pick it up just for fun, just to have something, a turboprop to play with. But yeah, it comes back to that expert thing. And there was a debate like, oh well, we don't want things to fail. People who fly flight sims, they just want to have fun. And like, you group of people that want stuff to fail and want these hyper realistic airplanes, these PMDG and Phoenix level airplanes. You're a very small percentage of the market. Absolutely yes. I definitely don't expect everyone to want to fly a PMDG aircraft with stuff failing, or a Phoenix aircraft with stuff failing. Absolutely not. Some people get into flight sim just for the fun of just sort of going from place to place and looking out the window, and that's fine. But then, again, it just comes down to that expert moniker that just bugs me so much. You put an expert moniker on there, people kind of expect an expert level airplane, something that's going to have failures in it. It's not going to suit everybody by any means, and most of these aircraft failures are optional. You can disable all the failures here in the PMDG 737 and truck along just perfectly normal. But it's just because they attached that expert label to it that made people, I think, want more than they were going to get from it. And I think that was a bit of a mistake on Asobo's part. I don't think they should have put that expert label on there. Find an alternative term to indicate that yes, this is deeper than just a normal default airplane, but I definitely wouldn't put it at expert. Expert implies a high level of skill is required to fly this aircraft, and from the sounds of it, it's not really that level. Alright, we are already getting to within about 100 miles of our top of descent point here, so we should probably start looking some stuff up here. So, because Vegas tends to be a busier airport, I am going to go and pull up the actual ADIS here on my phone using my digital ADIS app. So let's go to LAS, Las Vegas. Information Octal at 1456 Zulu. The winds are 160 at 13 gusts to 21. 10 miles to 25,000. 14 degrees at 2981. We can go ahead and set that. 2981. Landing 26 left, 19 left. Departures 26 right, 19 left. Simultaneous approaches to crossing parallel runways in use. Converging operations in effect. No times 19 right, 1 left closed. Alright. I'm kind of have a hankering to do 19 left. I almost always land on 26 left in Las Vegas, because I'm almost always coming kind of more from the east. Almost never come from the north. So I really have a hankering to do this arrival to 19 left. So I think that's what we're going to do today, just for something different. Just make sure the Cocktail 2 is compatible with a 19. And you know what's funny here? Actually, as I look at it, you wouldn't want to do the 19 left arrival, because you're kind of set up on a downwind for the 26s anyways. Alright, maybe we'll just set up 26 left. If we go around for 19 left, it's going to take even longer. I thought we were coming in from the north, but we're actually kind of sweeping in from the south and drawing straight to that left downwind. Let's see here. Let's just have a quick look at the 19 left. It doesn't even have an ILS. It's got an RNAV or another RNAV. Let's just have a quick look-see here. And there's an RNAV Yankee. And there's an RNAV Zulu. From our direction, it just doesn't even make sense. It really doesn't. what would make the most sense and be the most efficient would be this RNAV RNP runway 26 left, and I'm pretty sure Alaska Airlines loves their RNP. Alaska, I believe, is one of the more advanced airlines that likes a lot of these RNP and RNAV approaches because they often are more efficient than the ILS. I've done that ILS enough times. I think we're going to do the RNAV RNP to runway 26 left. Let's do that. This airplane's not great at flying them, but it'll get us there. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the RNAV RNP to runway 26 left. I think that'll be the most interesting and also reasonably efficient. Although part of me just still wants to do that 19 left, just fly right down the strip, just because I never do it. Thoughts, anybody? Alright, so we'll start the arrival here at Tequila, basic Fletcher above 240, T-Brand, REL above 210, Cocktail 250, 190 to 16,000, Zilda above 14,000, Dion above 12,000, NV above 11,000. And we go to Redquin, 210 knots above 9,000, and Twaffle, and then Bourbon at 210 at 8,000, and we can transition straight to the RNP at that point. Yeah, I kind of want to do that. It's more efficient. The trouble is when I'm on final, I don't have time to look at all the landmarks anyways. You guys can look out the window while I'm flying. I'll be focused on flying. Next time I do an arrival from the east, we'll do the 19 left arrival. It just doesn't make sense to me. We'll just do this straight in transition. It's a little easier. So, so we'll plan. So let's change this up here. So departure arrival into Las Vegas. RNAV runway 26 left. Bourbon transition. Execute that, and then we should have still the same legs here on the flight plan, but we now have the double Bourbon. We'll leave that in there for now, just in case ATC pops online. I don't see anybody. I see an LAX tower, but that doesn't help us. Los Angeles Center is what we need. Bourbon, Bishop. So let's see here. Bourbon, mandatory 8,000, max 210 knots. Bishop, max 205 until Shand. 205. It builds its own little kind of radius thing around there. Shand. And then 4,800. Relin, 3,800. Alright, yeah, we'll do this one. So the RNP 0.3 minimum is 2450. This is going to take a minute for me to set here, so let's just do this. Barrel mins. Just going to hold my finger there for a couple seconds. There's one thing the Airbus did better. You can just type it right into the FMS. 2450. Enter. Done. It's okay. It's fine. Here for a minute or so. Looks like my overlay there at the top is working now still. It's kind of maintained a pretty consistent connection. Hopefully it stays that way. 2450, 2450, 2450. Alright, barrel 2450 set there. We don't need an ILS, but what we could do is we could put in Las Vegas VOR 169. Get a DME readout that way will be nice. Alright, and yeah, just check the missed approach as well. So we got all these radius to fixes in there down to the final approach down to the runway. Cells. So runway 26 left, we go to Kasich, Rudy, Cells, T-Tone, and over to the Boulder City VOR about 7,000. So it's a bit of a long, kind of convoluted way to get out of there, but got some mountainous terrain we got to worry about around there, so it's understandable. All right. Yeah. We'll plan a flaps 30 landing, and while I'm at it, let's just make sure that FS2Crew is ready here. So we're going to do it via the star. It's an RNP, landing flap 30. You know what, we'll do landing flap 40. And you know why? It becomes an issue in Vegas is temperature. Temperature and brake heating. It's not too bad today. It's, what did I say, 16 degrees? It becomes a real problem in Vegas though. Where is it here? 14 degrees, that's actually, okay, you know what, it's fine. We'll do flaps 30. But this is something as well, oftentimes you'll do higher flap landing just to do a lower speed and be able to turn around, because brake overheats are quite common in Vegas just because of the fact that it's desert, it's hot. Auto brake 3 will do, don't bother with this engine taxi or gate. APU will do it delayed. No. Alright, so minimum altitude 2450. Got to type all this stuff in so that the FO makes the calls at the appropriate time. 7,000 feet for the missed approach altitude. Final approach fix is 3,800 at Relin. Alright, and we're ready for our briefing, I think. You have control.
I have control.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
Okay, so today we're doing the Cocktail 2 RNAV arrival into Las Vegas 10-2 Bravo, effective 8th of July of 2022. Radars required, jet aircraft only, GIN transition assigned by ATC, do not file. Alright, so yeah, we've already checked all the waypoints: Tequila, Basic, Felcher, T-Brand, Ariel, Cocktail, Zilda, Dion, NV, and then we get Red Quinn, Twaffle, and Bourbon. Bourbon's at 210 at 8,000 feet, and that gets us directly into an RNAV RNP runway 26 left in Vegas 1223, 24th of March 2022. Final approach course will be 259. That should be in there. We can verify that. 259 there from Relin, inbound 26 left. Final approach course at, or final approach height at Relin is 3,800 feet. The conditional DA is for RMP point 3 is 2450. We got barrel 2450 feet set. The airport elevation at 2181. It's got 2200 feet up there. Perfect. Missed approach is climb to 7,000 feet on the RNF missed approach route, which we did check Kasich, Rudy, Cells to T-Tone and up to Boulder City. Authorization required. Uncompensated Vero VNAV systems. It's not applicable. VDSI glide path and RNF glide path not coincident. It is a 3-degree slope down. Pappy's on the left, MLSF lighting system, 7/8 of a mile visibility. It's a VMZ day down in Vegas, so it should not be an issue. After landing on runway 26 left, we're going to take a convenient right turn off the runway, probably around Alpha 6 or Alpha 7, and we're going to need a gate. We got a couple seconds here, so let me just switch over to my other computer real quick and pull up a gate here. So let me just find an Alaska flight that went from Portland to... Come on, Portland, take it. Vegas. Alright, so there's a flight en route right now. When it gets to Vegas, it's going to dock at gate Echo 15, so that's where we're going to go. Echo 15, there it is. So there's Terminal 3 E-gates. Echo 15, right up here. So we'll turn back onto Charlie and then take lane 7 or 8 up around to gate 15. It's the first one there on the corner. Beautiful. Terrain is an issue around Vegas here, obviously. We do have some high terrain, most sectors around the airport. We got an MSF 12,900 thanks to this big mountain just to the west of Vegas. So Well, if we stick to the plans, the filed star, and the RMP approach, that'll keep us clear of all the terrain, and in the go-around again, it kind of loops us back around back to the east once we've started to gain some altitude. Weather should not be much of an issue. It's pretty nice day down in Vegas, operational. Let's see here. No, nothing's failed on this aircraft yet, and let's see here. No TAMs is what I'm looking for. No TAMs quickly for Vegas. Probably a whole bunch. Let's see what we can find here. Big busy airport, so lots of stuff is always happening there. Alright, Las Vegas. We do have a ground delay program in effect. Well, we're already airborne, so that doesn't matter. Yankee Juliet closed. There's a bunch of stuff here. So let's pull up this taxi chart and just make sure we have a sense of what's closed here. So there's Juliet, Yankee. So I'm trying to find the one particular taxiway. It can be a little bit tough. I don't even see where Yankee taxiway is. See Victor, uniform, you'd think it's around here. Whiskey is only sort of around here, but see Yankee. Anyways, we're going to need just the Alphas, Charlies, Zulu there. We might need Fox between the end of 19 right. Hotel closed, that's fine. Boulder, nav, TACANs unserviceable, that's fine. We can fly with RNAV. 26 right. Echo run up pad. Go. There's Echo. Echo's fine. Bravo between one left and one right. That's fine. Just trying to see what might impact our taxiing here, but I don't see anything. Foxtrot between Bravo and approach and 8 left. Decommission. That's fine. I don't see anything really show-stopping there. 1 left, 19 right closed. That's fine. 8 left. 6 right changed. No, that's fine. I'm not using that runway. SIDS. Approach procedures, ILS 1 left, Yankee 19 left, 19 left, 19 right, stars, nothing that affects our arrival. Alright, good stuff. Fuel situation, I believe our min fuel was something like 6.8, what do we have here? 6.8, exactly. We're showing 9.6. We got almost 3 tons. We can definitely do a go-around when we get to Las Vegas without an issue. Maybe do a couple of go-arounds without an issue. Looks like we're following somebody into Vegas here. Just ahead of us here on the arrival by the looks of it. And that's all I got. Any questions?
No questions.
Now he's running his whole thing. Alright, I'm going to put 24 on here for now. Be a typical high-low split. I have control.
You have control.
Descent checklist.
Descent checklist. Pressurization. Landing altitude is 2200 feet. Recall. Check it. Auto brake. Level 3. Landing data.
VREF 150. Minimums 2450 feet.
VRF 150. Minimums 2450 feet. Approach briefing.
Completed.
Descent checklist completed.
Alright everybody, welcome to the channel. I see we're getting a nice raid. Thank you Nomad for that. I appreciate that. Nice to see you. And yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping in and watching here. We are just kind of cruising along here. We're somewhere over the Nevada desert. Getting ready for our descent and approach into Vegas. We are literally about 3 or 4 minutes from our top of descent, so you guys are here just at the right time for it to get kind of interesting. And I will bump up this failure rate now that I see a whole bunch more people are watching here. Probably something will fail as we start down here. So I tend to put this up to whatever the number of people that are watching. So I see 18 people listed right now. That's how many we're going to have for 10 hours. So there's a good chance in the next half an hour on our descent here something's going to fail. I would almost set something, but I like the surprise. I have to say, I always love the surprise. I like to not know what's coming. I hate knowing what's coming. I want to be surprised. So I hope someone will. I hope something will fail. I hope it'll catch me off guard. That stream we did where we had the bus fault in cruise, and all the screens just suddenly go blank. And I was talking about something completely random. I don't remember what I saw. I just like whoa! All of a sudden, made me really sit up and pay attention. It was great. So hopefully we'll get something similar to that. But yeah, we got the failures bumped right up there, guys. Unless you guys want to suggest something. I may regret saying that, but if you guys want to suggest something, I'm kind of all ears for it. This is season 10 now, so we're doing Portland down to Las Vegas. We're going to go back to Portland, not today, but on our next stream. And next weekend, like I said, I'm going to have a whole bunch of free time. I'm not going to see you work for a while, Nomad. I got vacation, actually. Finally caught up on vacation, which is... it's one of those things where it's like, I kind of need the vacation because I got so much stuff, but we're not going anywhere. We just got so much stuff going on this month. May is an absolutely insane... Can't wait for the MCP dead pixel failure. You should really talk to PNBG. You should give them your suggested list of failures. It does, but it doesn't. I mean, it does when you don't go anywhere. I do, but this May especially just turned into absolute chaos in our family. Really, Microsoft? Thank you for that little wind craziness there. We just have so much stuff going on in the first couple weeks of May here. First Communion, and we've got birthdays and Mother's Day, and so much stuff going on. I do kind of need the time off just to make sure that stuff is done and gets done around the house. So it's actually not a bad thing to have this time off in the beginning of May. This is closest to summer I can get anyway. So with my seniority, this is the closest to summer I can get. Although, actually, I will have to say, when I bid for vacation this year, I was shocked. I got the week before Christmas off. Not the week actually of Christmas, but this year I believe Christmas is on a Monday. I'm off until the Sunday before Christmas, which is pretty phenomenal. So I think we know when we're doing all of our celebrating at my house, because I guarantee you on Christmas Day I'm going to work. But I was pretty impressed that I got that week of vacation. Considering my position on the seniority list, I thought that was pretty good vacation. Early May, no big deal. But my hope is that by the time I get back to work, all that construction on the apron of T1 there is done. Because I was there the other day with it, and it's one of those things where it doesn't look like it's having a big impact from the inside, because just the gates are just all empty. Haven't worked at Christmas in 91 years. Wow. You don't look a day over. You don't look a day over 19. I managed a long time to not work Christmas. The first airline I worked at, I managed to go all 5 years that I worked at that airline. I'm pretty sure all 5 years I worked at that airline, I never worked Christmas. I don't know how I got away with that one either. Ever since then, I've managed to work most Christmases, and I'm okay with that. I can totally accept working on Christmas Day. That's fine. This last year was the worst, only because I was stuck in training purgatory. And when you're in training, you don't get days off. They can call you and ask you to go to work any day if a trainer suddenly becomes available. So most of the trainers don't work on Christmas Day, but you're not technically off on Christmas Day. And actually, I was not supposed to be off on Christmas Day this last year. I was supposed to be deadheading home from Vancouver on Christmas Day and not make it home till like 6 p.m. So I managed to actually get it off. But it's the not knowing. I don't care what days I get off. I need a couple days somewhere in that time around Christmas off, and I'm fine with that. I don't care where they are. Just tell me in advance so I know, so I can make a plan. My family can make plans. We can plan when we're going to have dinner and all that other stuff. It's fine. But yeah. Yeah, it is painful. 9 to 10. It's VFR and they're getting gate holds. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't feel too bad from in the terminal because you don't see what's happening. But yeah, I think we kind of lucked out. Like when we came back. Well, I didn't even come back. I deadheaded back from Winnipeg the other day. We went out to Winnipeg as you heard, but then I deadheaded home. So we waited like half an hour for a ramp crew. But yeah, it was. You don't really know unless you're right there on the front lines. You don't really see how that construction's impacting. I read the memo on it, and I'm like, oh, this is not going to go well. Hope for good weather for a week or two. At least they're not doing it in winter. And I guess they're trying to get it done before like we really hit the summer crunch. Because I feel like Pearson personally is just running at 95% to 99% capacity most of the time. It is right on the cusp of like being over capacity, and one little hiccup throws the whole thing for a loop nowadays. There needs to be some improved capacity at that airport. That's what it feels like anyways to me. Not that I have any great knowledge in this airport, but just my general impression from operating it day in and day out is that Pearson needs more capacity, especially terminal-wise, gate-wise. It feels like there's not enough gates, not enough parking spaces for the number of airlines that are trying to operate, the number of flights they're trying to operate. That's where I think the biggest constraint is. I think the runways, they can be constrained at times, but they're not as bad. I think the biggest constraint really, truly is the number of gates available to aircraft. I think that's really the crunch, and there's no easy, short solution. Other than maybe parking planes at the H gates and busing people away, there's no short and easy solution to it. It's going to be, I firmly believe that Terminal 1 needs another whole pier. They need to start working on that, and they need to start working on it soon, because it's going to be 5 years, you know, to build it when they finally decide to do it. But they need to start now. They can't wait 5 years and say, oh, wow, the terminal's really overcrowded. Maybe we do need to expand more. They need to expand it now. Bring back T2. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, basically, Pier 1 needs, Terminal 1 needs a new pier right where T2 used to be, where all the H gates are now. They need to reopen that up. I never liked T2. I only went in it a handful of times, but it struck me as like this it was the epitome of like the brutalist architecture, like very just not necessarily dark, but yeah, like not a lot of windows, not a lot of light. It was a very utilitarian concrete building. It did not strike me as a very nice building to be in. Reminds me a lot of the old LaGuardia. LaGuardia used to be a terrible airport. Low ceilings. Wasn't necessarily dark, because I mean you put lights in there, but it felt oppressive because you didn't see a whole lot of daylight. You had a lot of artificial light, but you didn't have a lot of daylight. So I think oppressive is probably the best word. All right, Nomad. Well, thank you so much for rating, and I hope your stream went well too. I saw yours came on just a few minutes before I put mine on. I would have watched otherwise, but I will definitely catch you sometime soon. We will not at work maybe, but we'll hopefully meet cross stream again at some point. Alright, we're getting into Vegas here. You can kind of see coming over the mountains here. That one right there. These ones right here are the big mountains we got to kind of watch if we have to do a go around in Vegas. So Vegas is just in the valley right behind these mountains here. So we're just coming down the west side of Vegas here. We're going to be there very soon. How's the traffic level looking on VATSIM here? I don't have too many don't have too much ATC, unfortunately. It's not very exciting right now. There's nobody really inbound. There's people inbound to Vegas, but nobody close to it. We're the only people that are close to it, so it's going to be kind of lonely there right now, I'm afraid. Oh well. I will also try to do, for those of you guys that like my ATC streams, I will try to do an ATC stream this week. I feel like I haven't done one for quite a long time. This week especially. This weekend is going to be absolute insanity. Have a birthday at our house, as well as a First Communion, and so this weekend is just going to be a sleepover. It's just going to be absolute insanity this weekend. I would like to later this week try and do an ATC stream. I haven't done one in a while. I know I just haven't had the time. I often try and do them when I'm on layovers, and my month was very layover free. Very few layovers, and the few layovers I had were very short-lived. All month it was just almost all I've done all month is go fly somewhere and deadhead back, or deadhead somewhere and fly back, like one leg at a time. In the last like 3 weeks, I've actually physically flown the airplane like 4 times in the last like 3 weeks. It's been crazy how little I've flown, and it's not that I haven't been going to work, but they've been very inefficient. Just spending all day at work and not doing much. But then oftentimes when they do that, when they have the deadheads, you know, they're just trying to have you be on the road for the minimal amount of time, so your layovers end up being the minimum length of time, which is not a bad thing per se, but that's kind of when I usually try to plan my ATC streams, is when I've got nothing else to do, I'm stuck in a hotel room, I might as well stream some ATC, have some fun, and I can usually do it for 3 or 4 hours without interruption, without having other obligations to worry about. So very disappointed I won't be flying with the 787 on the way to San Francisco and a 220 on the way back. Hey, if you're on the 220, there's a good chance they'll upgrade to a 320. Because those 220s, the geared turbofans are still not all that great. They're often having to upgauge from 220s to 320s because they often end up having to take the 220s out of service. So never say never. I don't think I'm going to San Francisco next month, though. Where am I going next month? I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I'm doing it in Orlando. I think I'm I think I am doing a Los Angeles next month. Yeah, when you don't have seniority, that's usually what you end up with, is Redeyes. That's what I'm doing out of Los Angeles. I'm pretty sure I'm doing a red-eye back to Toronto. That's fine. The key is to get to bed early. I usually, when I'm doing a red-eye out of Los Angeles, they usually leave at about 11 p.m. So we usually have to leave the hotel at like 9 p.m. I go to bed at like 4 p.m. Go to bed at 4 p.m. Just pull the blinds. Go to bed at 4 p.m. Get like 5 hours of sleep. Get in the airplane and go. And I found this. It hasn't been too bad. I was kind of dreading them at first. They're not as bad as I thought. As long as you can get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep ahead of time. The trouble is when you end up on a floor with people running up and down the halls all afternoon from 4 o'clock onwards, it can be hard to sleep sometimes. Transition set altimeter 2981.
Two, 9, 8, 1, set, passing, 16,500.
Alright, Zelda, we're on our way down.
Check it.
Nope. Sorry, I forgot to mute him again. Alright, we're on our way down. Coming across here, Vegas is right over there. Start to see it there. Kind of hard to kind of make it out from this angle. It's just a bunch of kind of gray right now, but it'll become more obvious as we get a little closer as we come over top these mountains here. Yeah, take the Redeyes out of the west coast. There's a good chance you'll run into me eventually. I don't do a lot of that, but I do a fair bit. I can only do so many though too. If I end up doing nothing but them all month, I'd probably go insane. I'd have to book off some of them. I know some people do book off. If they end up with more than like 2 of them in a month, they'll book off the 3rd or 4th one, because it is a lot. You come back and depends on how it went and how well you slept, but you really sort of throws off your schedule for the next day too. It really does. So you don't want to do too many of them in a month. I got a whole mix of stuff next month. I think I got a Calgary and a Vancouver stuff in there. The backbone of the 320 stuff. But yeah, you never know. That 220 could get upgraded to a 320 at any time. Alright. Trying to remember to set up my GSX before we land there. Hopefully my frame rate keeps up pretty good on this arrival. Las Vegas, Fly Tampa scenery again here in Las Vegas. It's beautiful scenery. It's a little bit rough on the frame rate sometimes. Can be anyways. Okay, so now you're starting to see here. So that's kind of the west side part of Las Vegas. There's the airport right there. So the strip's right just north of the airport. So that's the airport right there. Just kind of coming across here. What else happened recently? Obviously the new World Update dropped. I was pretty stoked about that. I am looking forward to doing some of those push tours. Those look like fun. It looks like a lot of great scenery, but man, the size of these updates too, it just blows me away how much space. Like, I've stopped installing the updates unless the World Updates unless I actually plan to fly though. I used to just install everything. I'm like, oh, it's free, it gets included, great, I'll just download it anyways. You never know when I might fly it. I've sort of taken a more passive role. Unless I actually see and plan to fly something, I don't download the World Updates anymore because they're big. I think the new one was like 12 gigs. So you're talking like between like all 13 World Updates now, you're probably talking like they've done about 100 to 120 gigabytes of additional data on your hard drive, like over 1/10 of a terabyte. It's crazy how much data is being put into these, and they're great scenery, don't get me wrong, and I love the beautiful scenery, but oh my god, it's one of those things where you've got to really look at it and say, what's worthwhile for me? What's worthwhile? Because I can't afford to give like an infinite amount of, like, I'm putting P3, or keep want to call it P3D, I'm putting Flight Simulator on an SSD. SSDs are not cheap. I've got the stuff on a 1 terabyte SSD, but I got a few other games installed on there as well from Steam that I like to kind of peel and load quickly. I'm churning through that SSD pretty quick. I might need to get like a bigger SSD. I have already 2 SSDs. Like, I don't know, I can't put another SSD in here, at least not in NVMe one anyways. I'd have to just get like a standard SATA drive, which is okay, but it's not as fast. Las Vegas traffic, Alaska 670. We're at 10 miles southwest of the field. descending through 12,000 on a left downwind for the RNP, runway 26
Cabin
left.
crew prepare for landing.
Yeah, and that's what I did as well. Like I fly North America, so I installed the US and the Canada updates, but I've reinstalled the sim after a period of time. When I reinstalled the sim, I did not install the European updates. I didn't install the Australia, Japan updates because those are places I don't fly. And then I did actually one day, I did on a whim, go and do an FS economy flight through France. So I did download some of the European updates. But yeah, in general, I've stayed away from them because it is so much data. It's great that they're putting this data out there, and I love that we have access to it. But like personally, I have to start being picky. I have to start valuing my hard drive space at least a little bit. Like it is insane. I'm pretty sure that on that terabyte SSD, if you combine the sim, the base sim, all the updates I put on there, and the what am I trying to say? And the and all the community folder stuff. So all the the payware and freeware add-ons that I put on there, you're talking about probably easily 250, if not 300 gigabytes now, a third of a terabyte. Take myself away here, just take a couple of screenshots here of us passing the Las Vegas Strip. It's pretty good right now. Alright, cover your ears everybody, I'm going to go with the external view here. Might mute the audio honestly. Oh, that sounds weird without the audio though, doesn't it? After hearing that background noise for that long. And then I accidentally did that. There we go. Give it a second to load. Just trying to take some screenshots that I can maybe use a little later on for the title card here, but oh, that's weird without music. Or not without music, but you know what I mean, without background sound. Sorry, I'm looking and not really thinking about what I'm saying as I'm saying it. Okay, I have to put that back on. That was weird. All right, so it's down. Here's the 10,000. He's doing that. Got 6,000 feet set. I'm just going to go ahead and arm approach mode now. And we've got FMC and glide path armed. And I don't see any ATC popping on here. So I'm going to go ahead and close up this approach right now before we get any further along here. Waffle Bourbon right to Bishop. So I've removed the vector leg. We're now going straight into this approach here. It's like running AFE without simulated noise. Yeah, it's weird when it sounds perfectly clear. Flaps 1.
Speed check. Flaps 1 set.
I'm going to set speed 200 for now. We got a max 210, so we're going to go with 200 for now. Yeah, that was weird, just muting that after because it's just I tune out the background noise in my headset. Like I'm listening to it in my headset just because it's better for the receipt, just for the monitoring without getting a lot of background noise. I put myself back on there again, but yeah, it's funny how you just tune it out. Human beings, we're very good at tuning stuff out when we've seen it and heard it for long enough. Our brain will just be like, nope, that's not important, it's not relevant. I'm going to remove that stimulus from your conscious thought. And you don't even think about the fact there's background noise. You kind of hear it once in a while, like, oh, I can hear the engines kind of going up and down and all that kind of good stuff, but you just don't think about it much. Alright, so we can just do this nice arcing turn onto final here. 6,000, we should pick up the glide path at 6,000, I believe. And let's just pull this chart out here. 6,000, it goes down. It's actually 7,000. So we're actually below the glide path now. And Bishop, 7,000. On my ground, Shand, 4,800. 4,800 for Shand if it doesn't kick itself in here. I think it's going to kick itself in here once we pass Bishop. Yeah, and I've been thinking about that. Yeah, so I'll keep my community folder on a separate HDD and let's link it back to the SSD where my MSFS is. I've been thinking about doing that with a separate SSD just for the community folder. Maybe a SATA SSD. I worry with the hard disk drives just because there's so much data to load somewhat at randomly as you're flying the sim that I don't even want my community folder on the hard disk drive. I've tried to keep all of Microsoft Flight Simulator onto solid state drives to kind of keep the performance up.
Flight deck? Okay, shukran. Captain,
Flaps 5.
The cabin is secured. Speed check, 1000 to level up.
In-range checklist. Approach checklist.
Standby. Flaps 5 set.
Approach checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
2981 set.
2981 set. Approach checklist completed.
Las Vegas traffic. Alaska 670 is joining a 10-mile final runway 26 left. PMDG does not do a great job flying these RMP approaches because the way they do it is they just sort of create, and I'm not sure, maybe this isn't the real 737 thing, but it creates sort of a bunch of artificial waypoints around it. It kind of flies kind of direct from waypoint to waypoint. Like the bus, when it does it, it's just perfectly smooth. Constant bank angle all the way around. I think I armed the approach already. There it is, glide path. Could have sworn I already armed approach mode, but it did kicking glide path for some reason. So we got FAC, we got glide path. We got Mr. Approach altitude 7,000 feet set. Gear down.
Gear down.
I didn't notice we weren't going down on that parking leg, unfortunately. Not good situational awareness.
Radio altimeter alive. Cabin crew, take your seats.
Flap 15.
Final approach
Flap
fix.
15.
Height check. Missed approach altitude is set. Speed check. Flaps 15 set.
All right, we're a little fast right now. We're a little hot, but we're on slope. We are losing speed fast enough. 1600 AGL. We should be okay. Flaps 30.
Speed check. Flaps 30 set.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Engine start switches.
Continuous.
Speed brake.
1,000.
Armed.
1000 feet. Stabilize. Landing gear.
Down.
Flaps.
Flaps 30. Green light.
Landing checklist completed.
No, I didn't select my gate when we were on the downwind like I said I was going to. Too busy chatting. And nothing's failing. Nothing failed again.
500.
Alright. Autopilot's coming out.
Check it, check it.
400.
Approaching minimums.
Approaching minimums. 300.
We have
Minimums.
floating lights.
Check it.
Continue.
200.
Floating
100.
lights.
Check it.
50. 30. 20. 10.
Speed brake up. Reverse as normal.
Alright, manual braking.
60 knots.
Okay, that was not a bad landing. A little bit of a long roll. Those stupid floating runway lights. Every once in a while, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason to where and when I encounter it. Happens sometimes in Toronto. First time I've ever seen it here in Vegas. Las Vegas traffic. Alaska 670 is clear of runway 26 left, crossing runway 26 right for the terminal. And I do agree. I use add-ons linker now, and I love it. I just, yeah. And maybe you're right. Maybe having the community folder on a hard disk drive is not so bad, but I would like to try and keep it to an SSD. I have enough performance bottlenecks on my computer. I don't need the I don't need the loading time to be another bottleneck. So I don't want any. I kind of don't want anything that's running the simulator. Because to me, it's one of my more important installations. And certainly time sensitive, so I would like to keep the add-ons folder. I'll put other games on the hard disk drive before I'll put anything that's related to Flight Sim on the hard drive. The only exception is like fully external programs that don't really impact the performance of the sim, like a Pilot's Life. I don't think a Pilot's Life is on the SSD. Things like that run completely kind of external to the sim. Maybe load some sim information. Alright, it seems like the at least the overlay worked for the whole length of this new overlay. Seemed to work once I reset it the second time. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our gate. What did we say, Charlie? Nope, it was Echo, wasn't it? I can't remember what was the gate, guys. You remember? I forgot. I know it was the last one there. I just forgot what the number was. It's Echo 15, that's the gate. Alright. Well, we made it. That was a pretty nice landing. Pretty uneventful flight. I had the failures dialed right up and nothing failed still. Boy. Hopefully something will fail on one of these streams, guys. If you keep watching, I will keep pumping those failures up. And I'm thinking about. I noticed that that last stream that Nona did, not today, but last week when he had a couple people throw some points down to cause an engine failure, to make an engine failure happen specifically. I'm willing to consider doing that. I love the idea of random failures. But I kind of like the challenge of even known failures, even if you know it's coming. If I can just set a timer on it so I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. I know at some point in the future, 12 or 13 minutes from now, something will happen, but I don't know exactly when. I don't mind doing that as well, so I'm contemplating that. I'm contemplating putting some points in the bottom of the channel there, starting to collect points and distributed points to you guys watching, and let you guys be able to pick a failure periodically. And be able to, and be able to trigger them, for you guys that watch a lot, that get a lot of points, you can pick when the failures happen. Still, you're looking for those dead pixels, are you? The dead pixel's just on my screen. It's just my video card dying, that's all it is. But yeah, I've been thinking about that, because I don't get as many failures as I would like out of this airplane. It's just too reliable. And in real life, stuff doesn't fail, but stuff does fail. Usually it's non-critical stuff, and usually it's not too exciting. It's usually like, oh, you lost a bleed. Okay, well, we shut down the bleed, and we don't worry about it. We have a second bleed system. Of course, if you have an MEL on your first bleed system, then you got a real problem. So, I kind of want to see that. So I would like to see I'd like to do some more either MELs or something to kind of put some twists on the flying, put a little bit of pressure on the flying. Another thing is most of the time it's nice weather too, especially the place we're going, Vegas, DFW, Chicago sometimes has some stormy weather. So, the chances of us diverting are also pretty slim. But it would be great to have a diversion, to have to divert and run through the whole process of what's going to go into this and how are we going to pick up the pieces afterwards. That would be great fun. I gotta say the performance stayed really well. Did you guys notice that too on final? Like the performance was still very nice. Like it was still a very good frame rate. I think it was Sim Toolkit Pro that was really, I think what Sim Toolkit Pro was doing was when it saw that you were on the final approach phase, it started increasing the rate at which it pulled the data in SimConnect, because it wanted to know what your landing rate was. So it needed to check more frequently when you're on approach to make sure it didn't miss the landing, and it got the vertical speed as close to the landing point as possible. I think that's the problem. Because I'm not running Sim Toolkit Pro at all, and look at how well the sim is still worked on that approach. I'd be willing to go and try a flight to Los Angeles and see if that'll work a little better. Yeah, I made that turn a little bit, lost a little bit too much speed in that turn there. Alright, so right there, the last gate on the left at the end of the terminal ahead of us should be our gate Echo 15. Start the APU.
Starting the APU.
Not too many people down here in Vegas today. I should really start using that FSLTL a little bit more. That'll populate my, do I even have the X cable for it? Nope, I have to start it through this. This will probably come up right in front of you guys. Just to put some airplanes here. I haven't even actually run FSLTL in a while. I just have an error. Well, I guess I'm not running it then. I was going to try and run it and just to put some airplanes on the ground because, man, it looks lonely here. There's a couple of static Southwest airplanes parked over there, and that's it. But yeah, I promise, like later this month, May, probably not this weekend, but the following weekend, I will be streaming during the day on the weekend. Hopefully, we'll pick up some ATC and some traffic, maybe even in the evening. Might even be able to do some evening streams, maybe even participate in FNO. Who would love to see me live stream a flight into FNO? It never goes well for me.
Buses.
Perfect, thank you. FNO never goes well for me. Every time I seem to fly in FNO, I seem to do go-rounds. I end up too close to the airplane in front of me and I end up having to do go-arounds. I've done like 4 or 5 go-arounds going into FNO airports. Just bad luck. Just end up behind a plane that, an X-plane that has a frame rate falling or something like that. It seems to happen to me all the time. And it's just a little disappointing more than anything. I mean, it's fun to do the go-arounds once in a while, but it just seemed to be so consistent. Alright. This should be gate 15 right here at the end. I think. This is gate Echo 15. Why does it look like my... No, maybe not. I just don't see a marshal at all. Okay, hold on a second. Let's just stop here. Lights and doors.
Check.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't see a marshal.
Disarm doors and cross check.
I don't see a marshal at that gate. I see like a vehicle parked there that makes me almost think that there should be a... There's a baggage loader. I just don't see very much equipment sitting here, so that's why like I think GSX is not triggering properly. That's why it's not triggered properly. Oh, it wasn't E parking, it's gate E. That's why. Try that now. Waiting for the marshalers. Would be the first time. That's why. E15 is gate parking. E15 is gate E15. There we go. We got it now. Alright, so they did lights and doors. Taxi light is off. Yeah, taxi light's off. Good. Now we got a marshaler. There we go, that's why. I was going to say, like, the gates should all be pretty accurately labeled here in this flight time scenery, I would expect, so I was surprised to see that it was not labeled properly. But it was labeled properly, I'm just not very smart, apparently. That snap in. I hate marshalers that do that. Alright, there we go. That's off. AP's on the buses. Please remember to submit your flight. Thank you. I will. Alright, operate the jetway and request deboarding. Beautiful. Alright, here they come. He's just doing his thing, and then we'll do the checklist in a second, and we are done. It was a pretty nice, satisfying stream. Overall, pretty good. Pity nothing failed. associated with the shutdown. Shutdown checklist.
Shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps off, rope heap off, hydraulic panel set, flaps,
Up. 0. Up. Up. Set and checked.
park and brake,
Set.
engine start levers,
Cut off.
weather radar,
Off.
off, shutdown checklist completed.
Alright. We're here, guys. Vegas, baby. We did make it. Wasn't very exciting, I realized, when nothing failed. But what are you going to do? That's the way it is sometimes. And nevertheless, it's, I got to say, like, I do love this flight time
Starting
scenery here in
engine
Vegas. No, don't start engine 1. It's fine. I just killed FS2Crew. It doesn't matter because we're done. We're here. Goodbye, Mohammed. Thank you, though, for your time and your service. It's great.
The boarding requested.
I thought we asked for it. Oh my god, it is starting the engine. Son of a bugger. Okay, disregard that, guys. Yeah, I gotta say, like, I love the scenery. Like, it's very nice looking scenery, down to even having, like, billboards and everything. Really good looking scenery. Like, this screenshot right here. This is it right here. Like, I'm gonna take myself away for a second here, because I think this very well could be the title card here for Vegas here. There we go. If I do something like that especially, then you end up being able to see part of the strip in the background there.
Passengers
It looks
boarding
really
zone.
good. Yeah. Marshaller looks like he's dancing to Gangnam Style. I'll be sure to tell him that when he comes up to talk to me later. There we go. Anyways, that's it. So we have finished our leg here. We're done, and next time we're going to have to do our return flight. So let's just go to flight before I forget. Let's hit submit. Ba-boom. If you want to submit the flight, yes. Let it think about it for a couple seconds. It's the only trouble with APL sometimes is it takes a couple seconds because everything that does interacts with the server. So it takes a couple seconds for response time, information to come back. But here we are. Our next flight will be the return flight. We're not going to do it today, but we'll try and get it done sometime. But I will try and do like a mega stream at some point with these days I have off. I'll try and get some good streams in there, and in times you guys can participate. Maybe even during an FNO, and we can try and find some ATC something. We're definitely going to try and have some fun with it. But we got to go from Las Vegas back to Portland, and then we got to do a long one. It's a Dallas turn and O'Hare turn. These are some long turns, but we'll try and get some stuff done. We'll try and get some. What am I trying to say here? Some ATC streams in there as well. Let's just have a look at the logbook here and see how that flight got rated. Score of 98. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That'll keep me up there. Overall score is looking good here. So we got 1700. I've almost got enough experience points for the next one. How many experience points did this get me here? This got me 98 experience points. Yeah, so full 98 experience points. So it's pretty good. We're going to get there. Another 3 flights and we'll be finally upgraded from Junior FO. It's taken a while, but it's been tons of fun. I've enjoyed flying this series. This airplane's really nice when it works. Sometimes the sim could be a little bit pestery, but yeah, and I'm happy to see that like my frame rate is sticking up there nicely, even with all the detail here. So Sim Toolkit Pro, I love it as a flight tracker, but oh my gosh, I think that's more than anything. It steals way too much information from my from the sim. Tries to take too much information from the sim, and it slows everything down. It just takes way too much processor power. So as long as I can keep this overlay that I got up at the top working, I'm going to continue to stop using Sim Toolkit Pro for the time being. Maybe if I get a faster computer, better video card one day down the road, it'll be worth it. I may even be able to consider streaming the Phoenix this way. This maintained a nice frame rate throughout the whole flight. I was very impressed with this, so we'll think about it. Something to think about for the future. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun, and yeah, forgot to put myself back up on there, but thank you for watching, guys. I hope you had fun, and stick with me. Make sure you follow me here on Twitch and in the Discord, and we'll definitely get together soon and fly again together soon. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe wherever you are. Enjoy the friendly VATSIMs, guys, and we'll see you guys out there soon.